Good evening and welcome to the May 25th, 2021 regular meeting of the Windham Southeast School District Board. We'll call the meeting to order at 6:02. The meeting has been properly warned. We do have a few communications for those of you that were in the waiting room or waiting to get in. I put up a picture of to remind us that today is the 1-year anniversary of the murder of George Floyd, which has a significant impact on our nation and the world. I also wanted to, on a much brighter note, inform everyone, especially the board, that the Vermont legislature, the House and the Senate, unanimously approved a bill that created a legislative task force to draft legislation to implement a fair weighting system for students across the state. We voted early in the fall, or I guess around in January, we voted to contribute $3,000 to the cause of improving student equity, and that money went through the Alliance for Vermont Student Equity, and that work was obviously successful. The lobbyists were very successful, and that legislation is done, and they're going to be drafting over the summer. They're going to be drafting the legislation, and then next year they'll talk about it. The governor still has to sign it or not sign it, but let it become law without his signature. He's concerned because the legislature also unanimously voted to suspend for 2 years until this process was done the excess spending threshold penalty that schools, as we all know, have had to pay or have had to not have services or not have programs or not have staff because we would have had to pay a penalty for being over the excess spending rate. So folks, please stay muted. So that penalty is waived for a year, and it has significant effects for a lot of our neighbors, particularly up the West River. And I understand that they will save something like $500,000. So it's a significant development. It's a significant change, and our contribution went a long way toward helping have that happen. And the third announcement is we have with us tonight Richard Mills, a former, current Dummerston resident, but former member of the high school board and possibly the Dummerston board as well. And he's going to speak to us about upcoming event celebrating our students who have had quite a year. So Rick, you want to unmute and jump in?
Thank you, David. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can see you too.
Thank you, David, and good evening, board directors. As David said, Richard Mills from Dummerston, and I'm also a member in good standing on the High School Leadership Council. I was planning on presenting a written communication to you all tonight, but Administrator Perrin asked me to speak directly, and so I think this is right down the alley of the Leadership Council. So I thank you for the opportunity to speak to the board. I'm speaking directly tonight to raise the public awareness, basically use the communication part of a board meeting to raise the public awareness of the 2021 Senior Night celebration, also known as the Senior Gala Night. The event's scheduled for Saturday, June 12th from 6:30 to 10. It's going to be at Natowich Field outside. It's going to be held in accordance with all the state health guidelines. It will be a senior event with juniors by invite only. Tickets will be sold. And it is semi-formal, formal event for the students. I think I'm going to read Mr. Perrin's email that he sent out at the beginning of the month. Hello, class of 2021 families. As you know, the senior class council is working hard to organize a senior night to celebrate the senior class. This event will replace the junior prom and will also include elements of the baccalaureate ceremony. This event will feature a sit-down dinner using local food trucks, entertainment, and masked dancing. It's a huge undertaking and the class needs your help. Assistance is needed to plan, seek donations, and be present at the event. If you guys can help, or if the general public could help, the two contact people are the senior class advisors, Miss Ashley Nadeau and Miss Heather Cohen. Their emails can be found on the school website under faculty. I don't need to mention that it's been an awful tough year for the class of 2021 and actually the previous class. They did not have a lot of time as a class together, and we can't do anything about it. It can't be reversed. So I think it's best served to try and give them a night that they won't forget. This is important to them. So there's like a little over 2.5 weeks to this event, and I'm just making everyone aware of the need to make this a most special event. Funding is important, as always, and donations are needed for decorations, food. I think that the senior council would like to procure an ice cream truck. I don't know where they're at with that at the moment. We will get an update from the senior advisors, hopefully the beginning of next week. Donations, desserts, homemade, people to help set up and take down. I assume everybody will be showing up probably 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock to get things started on that Saturday. And then chaperones. And it would probably be best if you don't have a senior graduating. So take that to the bank. So please reach out. I appreciate your time. We owe this to these students. I have a graduating senior, and I think it's very important to all of them. So, Mr. Perrin, did I miss anything?
No, Rick, thank you so much for speaking so eloquently for the seniors. I would reiterate that they would really like an ice cream truck, and we're working hard to find one for them. The other thing is we've just procured for the caterers permission to use our BUHS kitchen. So they're going to actually be preparing the catered meal on site. And so another need we're going to have is some cleanup help in the kitchen, because Monday morning we have to serve food again to our students for the final day of the semester. So that's late breaking news today. So any help that we can get, clean up, set up, donations towards an ice cream truck would be great. I can't say enough about how hard the class council and the class advisors are working to make a special night for our seniors. So thank you. Thank you, Rick.
Thank you all for what you do. Appreciate it.
Great. Don't leave yet, Rick, because you've got a question. Michelle, go ahead.
Yeah. Hi, Rick. How are you?
Hi, Michelle.
I was just gonna ask you, I think you have my email. If you want to send me any information that you have, we could try to make it look pretty and use the communication council's routes to like get it out to other leadership councils and put it on Facebook through the WSESD page, and just use whatever resources we can to spread the word, because that's the best way to get people to show up, right? So just forward some stuff to me, and I haven't heard anything about this for right now, but I'll do whatever I can to help. I'm sure we all will.
I will say that checks can be made out to BUHS class of 2021. They can go to student council. They could go to Ms. Nadeau or Ms. Cohen, or any senior would deliver those. So,
do you guys have a PayPal account that people could do it a little bit more conveniently? Might be worse.
Yeah, we don't have PayPal set up at the high school yet. I wish we did, but we don't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's something to keep in mind for the future. Make it easy for people. All right. Thank you. Thanks for telling us about this.
Thanks, Michelle. Yeah, I'll be there June 12th for setup and takedown. So hopefully see you there. Thank you so much.
Take care.
Thank you, Rick. And again, that's Saturday, the 12th, 6:30 to 10. And people and contributions are needed and welcome. And you can pretty much get it to the school and it'll get to the event. So thanks for coming in. Thanks for taking advantage of this forum to get the word out. And hopefully it'll help, I'm not just soothe the rough edges of the year that these kids have had. So thanks, Rick. Next is our consent agenda, which is brief this evening. We have a clerk's report, approval of minutes for May 11th, 2021. We have resignations and new hires as listed on the agenda. And we also had 2 late additions to the list, not necessarily late additions to making decisions. We need to add Alessandra Chardon from BAM's World Language Instructor, who is leaving, and Corinne Tyler at Guilford Central, who's an academic support person going from a full-time to a half-time position. And new hires, we have Nathan Blunk, who's going to be an English teacher at BUHS, to add to that list. So I would ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. A motion and second, please.
So moved. This is Ann.
Thank you, Ann.
Seconded, Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas. Moved and seconded to accept the consent agenda as presented. All those in favor, please unmute and indicate by saying aye.
Hi.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we've approved the consent agenda. So now, we have public comment for non-agenda items. Time that's set aside early in the meeting so we can get a sense of if there are people that have things to discuss that aren't on the agenda. We can get a sense of that, and then if it's something that's going to be more than 10 minutes, we move it to the end of the agenda. Typically, because they're not agenda items, no one's really prepared to respond. So it's quite likely that the person who has a question won't get a response, but you can certainly make comments. So is there anyone who has a public comment on non-agenda items? I don't see any, so we will move to the administrative report. And on top is Academy School. And so Kelly, John, want to take it away? I will give you screen share so you can do whatever you need to do.
Perfect. Thank you. Make sure I'm in present mode. Let me stop the share just to put it in present because I don't know how to do that when I'm sharing.
At least you know how to do it.
Maybe I do, David. I don't know if I do actually. I'll try it in here. All right. If I can move my little box seeing myself then. Okay. Hopefully that looks pretty good for people.
It does.
Okay, great. So thank you so much for allowing us time to present tonight. I've been really excited about sharing all of our initiatives for this year. It's really been quite an exciting year, and we have a lot going on at our school that we're eager to talk about. And we have several people who are here to help us present, and also some people who couldn't be here but made videos. So we'll get started. So our focus this year has really been all about wellness. We try to always strive to promote wellness in general at Academy School and within our district. But this year in particular, with COVID and everything that we had to adjust and change, we had more and more of a push to think about how can we promote wellness for our students, our staff, our families in a time that not many people really feel well, not many people feel at their best. So as a staff, we've worked really hard to concentrate on student-led learning, project-based learning, reflection for staff and for students, and how to engage everybody, how to have everybody feel like they want to be here, they're excited to be here, and they're really eager to see what's next the next day, keep coming back for more. So I'll talk a little bit about the wellness team. The wellness team is at the heart of Academy School. It's comprised of John and myself, our school nurse, Nurse Amy, our counselor, Anna, our school-based clinician, Lori Macy, our family engagement and education coordinator, Jody Metulke, our BCBA, Bethany Connolly, our planning room coordinator, Shelley Doubleday, and our attendance clerk, Sue Durkin. And we meet every week for an hour just to talk about how things are going. It's sort of the pulse of the school. How is the staff coping? How are the students coping? Who's popping up on the radar who might need a check-in? And then we kind of can divide and conquer and provide services in a wraparound way instead of a siloed way to everybody who needs whatever they need. This has been a work in progress for the past 2 or 3 years, and we're really excited about how it's grown our level of collaboration for overall wellness, behavior services, the administration being able to collaborate with all of the different moving parts all the time. And teachers and anybody can really refer students to be talked about in the wellness team meetings also. And now I'd like to invite Jody Metulke to talk a little bit about what she does.
Thank you, Kelly. As Kelly said, my name is Jody Metulke, and I'm Academy Schools Family Engagement and Education Coordinator. Briefly stated, I try my best to link families with community resources that contribute to wellness. And thank you for having us here tonight. My presentation will be about 5 minutes and will highlight the history and hopes of the Share Shed, food sourcing, and Academy Family Liaisons. I recently read that some people believe the difference between health and wellness is health is a state of being, referring to physical, mental, and social well-being, while wellness is a state of living. In March of 2020, schools had quickly become more like community hubs. So many of our community needs became much higher. The need for accessible technology, childcare, and food sourcing. Schools became the hubs for supplementing these needs. For me, our school even became the place that communicated ever-changing information on state guidelines around COVID. As we all know, this year was exciting, as Kelly said, also challenging and sometimes scary on many levels, impacting our schools, community, and ourselves. As a wellness team, we see the impact that it has had on our students. It is my privilege to be part of the entire Academy school team, the community, and our wellness team. So prior to the pandemic, Academy was on course, thanks to a grant from Thomas Thompson Trust, to create a share shed. I had a small office in the modular home out back, and my space was shrinking with the amount of items I had been collecting. I can't pass up the chance to reuse or recycle, ever. The giving of this community is really deep. Some examples: 2 Academy alumni that worked with Payless Shoes. When they closed their doors, they thought of Academy and gifted us many boxes of footwear. Families that outgrow athletic wear generously pass them on to us. Stored in tubs are generous supplies of hand-knitted hats, gloves, scarves, given to us by the RSVP volunteers. I had just begun to move items to the shelves and the racks of the share shed with the vision of a grand opening after an all-school sing with coffee and volunteers to help create the system for the share shed. But that was in March, and the priorities shifted. In the summer and fall, I was again able to attend to the shed. This year, Kids and Coats had a different system where they gave money to the schools instead of giving vouchers to the families. So having that space at the share shed was great to manage and store all the purchases that we were able to get. It was also fun to have winter wear pop-ups. Pop-ups were setting up tables of winter wear, and families could shop during the entire day. Thank you, Sue, office attendance clerk, for helping with those. The owner of Love It Twice and I have an awesome collaboration. Leanne invited our school engagement coordinators to participate with her in a coat drive in the fall. She donated all the items to our 3 elementary schools in Brattleboro. Northeast Mountain Footwear have been so extremely generous as well. Both store owners gave discounts and bargains that I could not have imagined. Shout out to label shoppers for always helping me with sizes, because children's sizing to me is a formula that I really don't understand, shoes or clothes. Also in the works with the share shed, I'll be working with a mom that thought of a plan to swap used sports gear, because she said her children grow out of them so fast, but they're practically brand new. And also in the coming winter, I plan to follow up with another parent about helping me with a project she did in the past, which is to tie scarves around trees so people in the community who need them for warmth can gather them there. So school was and continues to be a hub for food in ways far beyond the in-school meals, which already seemed to be a mighty feat even before the pandemic to me. John Sessions and Allie West were dynamic, putting together schedules for volunteers to pack and deliver school meals to all the towns in our district. This continued through the summer and again will take place this summer. Veggie Van Gogh will also continue at BUHS, and hopefully in the fall, we'll be able to have the site return to Academy. Vermont Food Bank and I and Kelly in the school had started that in the fall of 2019, and it had been going quite well. It is with gratitude that I recognize Vermont also had Everyone Eats and families, well, farms to families programs that neither were directly related or affiliated with the school, but they certainly outreach to us. FoodWorks also shifted safely and quickly to partnership with the schools to get food either delivered or available for pickup for families. I'm also grateful to be part of working together with Allie and volunteers from school when we put together food boxes when there's either winter break or spring breaks. And I hope people here are aware of the great opportunity to have all schools in Vermont be part of the Universal School Meal Plan. That would mean all schools will eat for free regardless of income. And that's a drive that's really starting to take fruition. Anna, our school counselor, and I are also the family liaisons for Academy. We have had different forums throughout the year, including caregivers, support groups around the sudden stressors, particularly when homes and caregivers became their own hubs of remote learning. So challenging, and so many families stepping up to this challenge. We hosted a local pediatrician to look at the importance of sleep, and our finale of this year will be coffee with the counselors every Thursday morning until school ends. As the family liaison, I also have the opportunity to work with garden coordinator, Miss Kathy, and we had one event, and next week will be our second event, and we have it during dismissal. And these events engage the families by cooking. First, our on-site demonstration uses the vegetables that are showcased in that week's Veggie Van Gogh, Veggie of the Month, they call it. We include recipes so families can read, measure, learn, and cook together, and then end by eating what they created together as a family. And actually, this demonstration will also include a video prepared by the co-op downtown. Wellness, the state of living. We are where we are now living and striving because of the amazing strength of the Academy School community, all the staff, all the families, and of course, ours and your students. Thank you.
Thank you, Jody, for all of your work and for presenting tonight.
You're welcome.
Next, we're going to hear a quick video from Lori Macy, who is our school-based clinician. This is a picture of Soxy. Soxy is Lori's personal dog and also a Vermont certified therapy dog. So Lori will talk to us a little bit about what she does here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lori Macy, and I am the school-based clinician at Academy School. This is my 10th year at the school. A little bit about my role. I do
Look, Libby,
students and also
Soxy.
parent support for those students that I work with. I do groups. We do skills groups or groups based on need. Sometimes teachers will contact Anna or I with a specific need. My favorite group that I do with Anna, and we unfortunately did not get to do it this week, is the kindergarten groups. It gives Anna and I a chance to meet with the students and them, for them to get to know us and us to get to know them. Another thing that I do here is I bring Soxy in. Soxy is my dog, but her and I train together, and we are a certified therapy dog team through Therapy Dogs of Vermont. And this is Soxy's 3rd year in the building. Soxy is actually here with me today. There's Soxy. It was Very exciting to hear last week that SOCSI can now resume visits. There was a period of time because of COVID that SOCSI wasn't allowed in the building. We did some cameo appearances on Zoom, but it just wasn't the same as doing in-person visits. Some things that have been studied and proven for therapy dog visits. The visits are proven to lower stress and anxiety levels, reduce blood pressure, promote confidence in readers. Trying to think what else. There are like so many benefits. Just, I think it just helps people feel good. I'm a little biased, but I think SOCS has been a real addition to our school building. What I do weekly is I send out a schedule to teachers, and they generally fill in times that they want SOCSI to visit. It's usually a 15-minute slot. Sometimes it'll be a little bit longer. And teachers do different things. Sometimes they'll do a read aloud, and students will come by 2 or 3 at a time and meet with SOCSI. Sometimes they'll continue to teach, and they'll just send students a couple at a time to meet with SOCSI. I've had in the past, not yet this year, but I've had requests for individual students to come and hang out with SOCSI. Sometimes we do like a whole group where the class, and this happens a lot in kindergarten, where they'll do, the whole group will just do like a question and answer. They'll ask questions about dogs in general, or they'll ask questions about SOCSI's training. And then a lot of the kindergarten students love to share stories about their own pets. So yeah, having SOCSI in the building, I think, has been a great experience for all. But again, I'm biased. So yeah, so that's a little bit about my position and what I do here and what SOCSI and I do. Yeah, so thanks for letting me share. Okay, bye.
So that's our SOCSI. We are so happy to welcome her back this week. Everyone had a huge smile watching her wag her tail down the hallway, and SOCSI just turned 12. So it's pretty phenomenal to see a dog, give that much love and such a gift to our school. Oops. I don't know why it's not. There we go. Okay, next up is Anna. She is our school counselor. She has a baby at home, so she made us a video as well.
Hello, my name's Anna Ocasio. I'm the school counselor at Academy School. My role at Academy allows me to work school-wide and address school-wide needs and community needs. So I'm able to do everything from working individually with students in solution-focused sessions, to small group work, to classroom lessons, to family outreach. I've also gotten to work really closely in collaboration with our staff this year. And so I'm really excited to share some of the social and emotional work that we've been doing. Just really quick, social emotional learning has become a bit of a buzz phrase. So I kind of like to just clarify what it means. It's essentially the work that we do to develop into responsible, kind, and fulfilled people. So that includes positive decision-making, managing our feelings, having good relationships with each other. And it's really easy to talk about what this looks like at Academy because these things are ingrained in the culture of elementary education. They're a huge part of what our students are practicing and learning and getting good at this age. And as a school, they're really integral to the universal standards that we have in place here at Academy. But with the onset of the coronavirus pandemic, our school moved towards an even more holistic wellness approach. And these SEL standards sort of rose to the top of how we were approaching things and what we were prioritizing. So our wellness team began the school year with a professional development that not only emphasized social emotional learning in the classroom, but also in our own lives as well. Sort of following the old adage, you can't pour from an empty cup. We use that professional development time to think deeply about the impacts the stress of living under a global pandemic, how that might affect us as teachers, as colleagues, as family members, and what we would need in order to continue to do our jobs in sort of unprecedented circumstances. We also thought about this in connection to how we work with our families, how we can emphasize self-care for ourselves and for our students and the community as a whole. With this continued emphasis on wellness, our teachers were sort of given the green light to focus on community building within their classrooms to start off the year. The school forest, as you will see throughout the presentation, has been a backdrop for a lot of this work. Hiking, outdoor play, learning about nature, all of these things lend themselves really beautifully to social emotional learning. And they've helped create really close-knit classroom communities and a really even closer knit school-wide community. This work is ongoing throughout the year. We see it in mindfulness exercises that some classrooms have been practicing, grounding strategies, conflict resolution, so many other things. You can definitely see it emphasized throughout the school. And it's just been really amazing to see the way that our staff has come together to promote a positive school community during what has been a really challenging year. And the silver lining, I guess, of what we've gone through this year is that we're going to continue to emphasize this wellness approach and this community approach as we go forward as a school, and just keep kind of growing stronger in these practices, which is, as a school counselor, is great to see and be a part of. Thanks.
Thank you to Anna.
Hello.
Sorry. Okay. I promise there are live people here too. Next up is, so Anna talked a lot about play, and Bethany and Meg, who you'll hear from in a moment, have created a really robust collaboration to integrate speech and language therapy into play, and also integrate some behavioral skills into play. So they're going to talk about that for just a minute.
Hello, I'm Meg Boraski. I'm the speech language pathologist at Academy School.
Hi, and I am Bethany Connolly, and I am the board certified behavior analyst at Academy School.
And we're going to talk to you about our play-based training that we created this year. So during this school year, we had to be flexible with our treatment. We noticed that there was a disconnect because of the changes that COVID brought on between people seeing the real importance of playing in children's social emotional development and how it translates to academic readiness. We created this training that taught modeling and how to naturally promote language and social emotional well-being in the least restrictive environment to the school paraeducators.
We started by providing a brief overview of why unstructured and structured play is important in the development for children of all ages. Paraeducators were given the necessary background knowledge of how playing impacts learning, language, and behavior in and out of the classroom. Paras learned that having adequate play skills can curb undesired behaviors. We explained how to improve teacher instructional control through creating an environment that is based on safety and student choice.
So during the training, we shared videos of ourselves modeling the strategies, and we gave opportunities for the participants to point out how students were interacting with the strategies we just taught. The video modeling opened a dialogue and created a space for professionals to see students' benefits from the strategies in real time.
And one of the most exciting things about providing this training was the feedback that we got afterwards. And we really had a lot of positive feedback from paraeducators around this training, and saw that there really is a need for people to be exposed to what sometimes school communities can see as being pretty obvious knowledge among professionals. It was particularly impactful that we were able to show true collaboration between ourselves, a BCBA and an SLP, which sometimes can be looked as professions that are a little bit at odds with each other. So it was great to kind of break down that misconception. And we've really realized that coming together to collaborate and create meaningful trainings is really something that we need to continue for all of our schools to excel.
So thank you for listening, and I hope you can come to our next training.
These two have really set the example of playing nice with one another, and just as a staff, they created a video using our students just for internal training purposes. It's just really exciting to see the amount of inclusion that's come of this as well, for students who often struggle to communicate or initiate play with their peers. This is a true example of how everybody can really access, peer relationships and play in an equal way. Does that every time? Okay, John Sessions.
Sure. So we wanted to take a minute to talk about our school-wide approach to discipline and our commitment to restorative justice at Academy School, because that has sort of become a top priority for us as an administrative team, and sort of a defining characteristic related to both individual and community wellness of our whole student and staff body. So a little background: when Kelly and I first came into our roles in the 2018-2019 school year, we committed ourselves to looking deeply at student behavior and collecting and analyzing student behavior data. And what that showed, among other things, is that we were, as a school, we're averaging about 500 behavior referrals a year for the 3 or 4 previous years leading up to that point. And that, interestingly, about 60% of those behavior referrals were repeat behaviors. So the same student exhibiting the same behavior. And that made us think, looking at this data, that previous ways of intervening with behavior was not effective in changing student behavior. And we were just seeing sort of similar patterns of behavior repeated over and over again. So we spent a year with a group of staff sort of committed to learning about restorative justice approaches to school, in school of responding to challenging behavior. And since then, we have really developed a lot of professional work around that, and a commitment to the school community. And so our work, you can see in these boxes, is really broken down into 3 areas. And the bulk of our work is focused on prevention. And that is things like, has been mentioned in some of these videos, really focusing on relationship development, fostering a true sense of belonging and interdependence among our student body, and creating a real community where students feel safe to advocate for themselves and develop a sense of self-confidence. We've also worked to develop our skills in how we respond to conflict and how we respond to issues of student behavior. And that includes developing skills and strategies around facilitating restorative circles, which we do every day here at Academy School. We've worked with our student body. Pre-pandemic, we were working very closely with Mike Sostek at the high school, and some of his student leaders in their restorative justice program, who trained our student leaders at Academy School. So we had a group of about 25 student leaders who were trained in facilitating restorative circles and in peer mediation strategies. And they became a really critical piece of how we were responding to student conflict and issues of student behavior. And then we've done some professional work around reintegration and how to welcome students back into learning environments and how to support them once they're back in there. A couple critical pieces that I just want to identify that's been part of our commitment to restorative justice has been, as I've mentioned, a school-wide commitment to relationship and community development, both school-wide and in our classrooms. I mentioned student leaders being trained as peer mediators, and also we've done a lot of staff training and teacher training, as well as additional student work. Tomorrow, for example, I'm leading a workshop with our paraeducators about reintegration strategies and how to support students once they're reintegrated back into the classroom. We've benefited from some really wonderful partnerships around restorative justice work. Locally, as I mentioned, with Mike Sostek and the high school staff have been phenomenal supports for us and continue to be. We've also worked really closely with the Brattleboro Community Justice Center, and specifically Mel Motel, who has done a lot of work, again, with our student leaders and also with our paraeducator staff around specific trainings. And we've developed some relationships with other schools that have fully committed themselves to restorative justice work in schools. Champlain Elementary School in Burlington is an example of a school that we've connected with. And we've spent some time with our student leaders connecting with schools in Oakland, California. Oakland Unified School District is often held up as sort of the model of restorative justice work in schools. We've developed a connection with one particular high school over there that's been a source of information and support over the years. And we as a school are committed to addressing all behavior incidents through repair work and through that lens of restoration and responding to peer conflicts with circles whenever possible. We've seen some really promising results and impact from 2018-19 school year to 1920 pre-pandemic. We've seen a 35% reduction in behavior write-ups. And where previously we saw 60% of behavior incidents were repeat behaviors, last year we saw that number drop to about 15%. And so a significant reduction in repeat behaviors, which makes us believe that how we are responding to behavior is effective in changing student behavior. And just anecdotally, we see in our community an increased sense of belonging and an increased sense that their presence matters in a school community. And it gives us pride that every student has the opportunity to believe that and to feel that. And that's really at the core of this work. Thanks.
Thanks, John. So we have, as I mentioned at the beginning, really focused on getting outside as much as possible and really getting into some project-based learning, which goes in depth and is often student-led as far as interest and content. So I have a short kindergarten example, and then Sarah's here to talk about a sixth grade example. I did add, there's two videos here. I'm going to show one that's only a couple minutes and another one just for when this is posted for the public. It's just really sweet to watch the art integration piece of this. So kindergarten teacher Maureen Parzek said that this project really opened my eyes to the magic of project-based learning. The students' initial interest in owls came from their remote enrichment with Wendy Windle in art. If it wasn't so late in the year, my class would be starting another unit. They're heavily invested in watching and learning about the birds of the Cornell Lab webcams. A woodpecker got into the American kestrel's nest and there were babies in there. We need to find out why. So Mr. Sessions saw an owl on a bike ride, and this whole unit came from him telling the kindergarten about that. So here's what they did.
Welcome to our owl story. Mr. Sessions saw an owl in the woods, but he didn't know what kind of it was. There's a lot of kind of clues. This is where Mr. Sessions saw an owl.
There was one day I was out here riding my bike after school on this big trail, and I was going that way, and I stopped right here at this tree stump, and I looked up there in that tree, and what did I see?
Owl!
Owl. And you guys have spent a lot of time researching owls, and you figured out what kind of owl it is. Who wants to share?
Barn owl.
Yeah, what kind of owl is it?
Barn owl.
A barn owl. Yep, it was right in that tree, right there.
They are excellent hunters and they can see black and white. They have excellent hearing. Their colors make them camouflage in the trees. You can't hear them when they fly. They have really sharp talons to help them catch their prey. They swallow their prey whole or they break it up. They spit out pellets. Thank you for coming, Owl.
So the kindergarten class featured in this video created this beautiful owl walk in the woods where other classrooms could go and enjoy the information. And it's led to this year-long engagement for them, which has really been special and formed a nice connection with John and the kids as well, because he initially saw the owl. So that was one example of project-based learning. This is the art that we'll skip for now for time's sake, but it's just so you can see a little more of what happens in the art room if anyone's interested. I don't know.
Kelly, you don't have to skip it unless you're in a hurry.
I mean,
the art's very important.
That's true. And Wendy Wendell is absolutely fabulous. And I will play it then. It's a really good example too, because Wendy was remote up until after April vacation. So she was teaching from her home studio, and the students went to the art room to receive art instruction via the whiteboard. And they were able to communicate with her that way. So I'll show you a little bit about that.
Thank you.
You are going to be coming each week to make something incredible in this room and get to study owls. For the whole month, we're going to be focusing our energies on learning, studying, and creating owls of our own for the month of October. And I can't think of anything more fascinating than the owl. Owls have long beaks. Owls can fly far. Owls have sharp claws. Owls have really big eyes. Owls have long beaks. Owls have fast wings. Owls see really far. Owls has a long beak.
So that's a great example of, art integration into a project-based unit. Obviously, library was involved, getting books into the classroom, and also just Wendy's ability to create, the feeling of it's almost like a TV show. She's got theme music. She's very engaging. She made little videos to go with each unit that she introduced through Art from Home. So it's pretty phenomenal to see the work that came out of all of that. Okay, Sarah, are you here?
I am. Hello, everyone. My name is Sarah. My pronouns are they, them, their, and I teach 6th grade at Academy School. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about education outdoors and outdoor education, which has been sped up by COVID. So I've been experimenting and trying things out for a couple of years, and then COVID happened. So we spent a lot of time outside this year. I recently read a study out of the University of Berkeley by Dr. Duo that after an outside lesson, the amount of redirects that a teacher has to do decreases in half. And that is an incredible amount of time that I don't have to spend redirecting students or signaling to them about what they should be doing or where their eyes should be. So I can spend more of my time on actually teaching and not managing the class. So I just want to start with education outdoors and how I see it different from outdoor education. So one thing that I've been doing is I take lessons and I take them outdoors. So they're the exact same lesson that I would do in the classroom, but we're sitting outdoors instead. So laptops if it's internet-based, and we'll bring paper and pencil if it's not. Even just that small change in setting, we're 5 feet out my door. We haven't gone far. We're on pavement generally, so it's not even like outdoors, like in the pictures here. But I see a change in behavior. Kids are more relaxed. Kids are kinder to each other. They're more focused. They ask better questions. So just that movement outside of my door has been really helpful. It's also, of course, much more COVID friendly. So as you can see, my friend on the left there sometimes struggles to keep his mask up in the school. And so just having that opportunity where kids can take their masks off and we're not worried about it, or they can be seated close together to have a real conversation rather than 6 feet apart in the classroom has been really huge this year. We also have many learning moments, intentional and unintentional. Some of the unintentional learning moments this year that have been really joyful have been ants, which I wouldn't have assumed were interesting to 6th graders, but they're fascinated by how they move and how they're together and where they create nests and where there aren't nests and the different colors. We spent a lot of time looking at butterflies, and we always have a conversation every time the emergency vehicles go by about where they might be going or who they might be responding to, or stories from the kids' past. So that's been a really cool thing to grab a hold of and take our class on a different direction than maybe we had intended on. And the last part, of course, for education outdoors is just movement breaks. Just the act of going from one space to another gives them a chance to reset their brains. They're in a new space, so it's a new opportunity to choose different behaviors. And it's a natural one where we're picking our stuff up, we're walking to another place, and we're sitting down. So the kids are getting that movement without having to do some kind of like movement break that typically works better in a K2, K3 setting that 6th graders kind of roll their eyes at me for. So that works really well. I'm also doing outdoor education, and I define that more as lessons that are either social emotional learning based, community service based, like you see in these 2 pictures. On the left, we did a mini green up day on the Friday before green up day in Brattleboro. And on the right, my kids are digging fire pits because we used many more fire pits in the woods this year. Or they're curriculum based in the outdoors. So for my social emotional learning, that might look like partner walks where they have a prompt that they're talking about. It might be guiding each other through a new section, but it's a chance for them to talk with one-on-one with another person from the class and deepen their relationship in ways that they might not be prompted to do so in the class. We also do some group initiatives, whether that is using props and building towards team building sorts of skills, or looking around and using the nature that is there. Can we all stand on that log for 10 seconds? Can we do it on 1 foot? and having them have a group goal and see how we get there. We've also engaged in sit spots this year. We've kind of watched spring come in and asked a bunch of questions about how trees grow and how nature changes from winter to spring. It's also been a moment for quiet reflection. So my students, it's been a little bit of a struggle, especially in the fall, and then welcoming students in the winter. They're coming from homes where it's maybe just their family that they've been with for months, and school can be a little overwhelming because you're with a lot of people for a long time and you have to keep your mask on. So having those breaks in the day where they can just sit quietly, not have as much stimulation, reflect on what we've been learning, it's really helped them be more articulate about what's going on in their lives. And the last thing for social emotional is we've been doing a lot of skits outdoors. For whatever reason, kids feel a little bit more able to be vulnerable and open up and do acting out in the woods where they wouldn't in the classroom. Not exactly sure why yet, but it's definitely worked for this year's 6th graders and last year's 6th graders. We also do community service. Kelly, I don't know if the next picture is there. It might be, it might not be. Let me try. Nope, never mind, go back. I had a picture, imagine, of a gigantic tree that had fallen across the trail. And my class has gone out a couple times over this year and a couple times last year to just use hand saws and to work together to remove a large tree, which is such a real world task. They feel such a big sense of accomplishment and they do it together. So that brings our community together, and it also impacts our school community and makes the trails safer and better for others. And the last one is curriculum based. So we have Beak come in often to do lessons with us. We talk about the forest ecosystem. We use life cycles. We look for math about area, and sometimes we find volume. And we've also really tied in reading skills and applying them learning about survival skills and reading about those things. And then they get to go try them outside. So whether if that's building a fire or building a shelter, it's a real world application of I've read this text, now what do I know based on it, which has been great to see kids working together and asking questions and then going back into the text and using it to make their product better. And Kelly, I think that's all I have.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Okay, I'd like to invite the Farm to School and Garden Committee members to speak.
Hi, Kelly. Hello, everyone. I'm here, but for some reason my video is not working.
That's okay, Kathy.
Okay. So I'm Kathy Casson. I'm the garden coordinator for this year. It was a new position. The kids know me as Miss Kathy. And we have a wonderful Farm to School committee this year. Very committed teachers that are very interested in gardening. We have a cross section of classroom teachers and enrichment teachers. And this year we also have Allie West, our food coordinator, food director, who's been a great resource. And Sheila Humphreys, of course, from Food Connects, who is a wonderful support person for myself, as well as the committee. And we also added this year, Caitlin Burlett, who is a parent and a local farmer at Wild Carrot Farm. So she has been part of our committee. Reagan Anderson is very new to our committee. She works at the co-op. She's the educator coordinator there and has been wonderful. She made a video for our mixed greens, which is harvest of the month for May, and has provided me with mixed greens and ingredients to make a maple vinaigrette. So she's been wonderful. And we also have included Jody, again, and collaborating with Jody to provide food and recipe ideas for families. So it's been wonderful to have all these people on our committee. And this year has been interesting with COVID. It has been a challenge trying to figure out cooking activities, gardening activities, and keeping everything safe. But I think the staff has been extremely flexible, very committed to providing time for me to come into classrooms or to work with kids and their students outside, either with gardening activities or with cooking activities. With this spring, a great number of teachers have been invested in gardening and getting seeds. They've also asked their students what they would like to grow. So a lot of what we're growing in the garden right now is student led, because that's what they would like to see growing in the garden, and have wonderful ideas. So far we've harvested some spinach and some radishes. We've had peas growing. We have lettuce growing. A number of classes just planted potatoes. So we work with our gardens as far as trying to find vegetables and things that we can grow that are early spring vegetables, and then also get in the fall. So some classes are harvesting things now, and some classes will harvest in the fall, which is really nice. And we've been doing a lot with Harvest of the Month, which I collaborate with Food Connects, and I have been providing teachers with information about the harvest of the month as far as what the vegetable is, and gardening ideas. And then we try and incorporate those into cooking. So we've done a lot of outdoor cooking this year due to COVID. And it's been wonderful having the fire pits out there. Sarah's class digging some fire pits for, I think she did it for second grade, getting Food Connects grant money to get more fire pits out there. So we really have a lot of opportunity this past year of places to go and do cooking activities. Some of the things that we've done this year, we've done macaroni and cheese over the fire. We've made mini pizzas. We've made nachos. We've roasted, which was a harvest of the month, beets and carrots that were dipped in maple syrup. We made pancakes and did that with a kindergarten class that made their own maple syrup. So that was pretty exciting. And of course, we always have strawberry s'mores. And with Orly's sixth grade class, we did she was studying the Civil War, so we made Johnny cakes over the fire, which was interesting. And then just yesterday, we did roasted strawberries dipped in chocolate over the fire. So lots of interesting recipes that we've tried. Rachel Glickman, she's our academic support for sixth grade. She did an after-school garden club this year. It was a small group of five students, but they did a lot of work in the garden with planting flowers and mulching and weeding to get it ready for a lot of the garden beds ready for more planting. So we hope to do that again next year in the fall and have another garden club. We also did a collaboration with Tom Green from Edible Brattleboro, and we got a new raised bed from Caitlin at Wild Carrot Farm. She donated it to us. And so he came and worked with Eric's coming sixth grade class and showed them how to make a lasagna bed, which was very interesting. It was something that I have never done before. So it was a learning experience for me, and how to layer it. So using compost and mulch and garden soil. And he brought all the materials and showed the kids and walked them through the different steps. So we have another raised bed that's going to be ready to plant with a remote class tomorrow. So that's exciting. And also, he is working with Eric's class to use property on Western Ave it's going to be a community garden, but they're looking at maybe putting in a pumpkin patch there, doing a couple gardens that are using the Three Sisters, which is corns, beans, and squash. and getting some, maybe some berry bushes to put over there so that Academy School can use that as for another place for growing vegetables. And also it will be used for the community too. So that's kind of exciting. And I can't say enough about Sheila and Humphreys at Food Connects. She has been wonderful to collaborate with and work with this past year. She's helped us with our action planning. She's helped us with grant writing. She helps us facilitate team meetings. And she's been an excellent support for me as far as someone to go to and bounce ideas off of, or just ask questions of, and what to do next. And really exciting news is she was able to help us get money from Rise Vermont. And we have the process of getting a new cooking cart. The cooking cart is being ordered, but we went to Brown and Roberts, and with money from Rise Vermont, the grant money, we were able to purchase a number of things that will be great for cooking next year, such as electric griddle. We have a convection oven now, a food processor, an air fryer, an immersion blender. We have lots of measuring tools. We'll be getting a set of pots and pans. They're on order. Mixing bowls and all kinds of cutlery and various tools that we can use for cooking. So pretty exciting. And that will be ready for next year. So I know these are future hopes and dreams for our Academy School garden. We're working on getting signs for our garden beds so that when people come to visit or during the summer, we're hoping parents and kids will be coming to the summer program, which is going to be Wednesday afternoons from 3 to 5 with Tara Gordon. And just to label some of the grade level beds, we have an herb garden, we have various perennial gardens. This year, Anne Morodell from 4th grade, she really wanted to put in a cut flower garden so that we can do bouquets and stuff for open house next year. So we have that going. So it would be nice to have some signs up to let people know what we have going there. And last year, I tried to label all of the plants growing in the garden so that people could know what's there. And the kids have been doing that with when they've been planting. And next year we're hoping to get the Where Are We Eating program in the world with Allie. She started to do that, and then with COVID, it kind of felt was not able to do it this year. But we're hoping that we can get that going again, and including Vermont in that. And I think she has some ideas for lunch that is from Vermont based. So it'll be interesting to see what she comes up with. And again, the pumpkin patch, we're hopefully to put it over on Western Ave, but we're also trying to figure out, can we put it someplace on site? And Eric Cummings and Liz Casarella, two of our teachers, are very interested in having an on-site compost program going. So we'll be looking into that for next year, starting off small and seeing if we can put together like a 3-bin process to use some of the compost from to use in our garden. And we're hoping to in the fall to have a student-led garden tour at our open house, along with using some of the produce from our gardens that we harvest to have it open house as either a taste test or as a dish to share. So we're looking forward to that. And these are just some of the pictures that we've taken over the years. We have taste tests with the mixed greens. Kids are planting potatoes. Another student harvested a radish for the first time, so he's pretty excited. We have kids cooking outside. We have the maple, tapping the tree in the courtyard and collecting sap. And another group sitting down by the spring and in the forest and having a little nacho party. So lots of fun activities. And I would say that I've gotten a lot of comments from kids saying, this is the best day ever. We love it. What are we cooking today, Miss Kathy? So they're very excited about doing all these activities. And Maria Carreño, our Spanish teacher, she went out with a group of students and labeled all of the vegetables that we planted and seeds, and they labeled them in Spanish. So now we have Spanish labels as well as the English labels. And this is a video of 2 second grade students, and they are in our Academy School garden, and they'll talk to you a little bit about their experiences.
Hi, second graders. Did you guys like planting in the garden this year? Yeah. What are some things that we planted?
Potatoes, and we also planted some tomatoes and kale.
Ooh, and have you tried or eaten anything from the garden that we grew?
Yeah, we tried spinach and radish.
What are some favorite things that we cooked over the fire?
Mine is like beets and carrots with maple syrup on top. Mini pizzas. And like these s'mores with ice cream cones. And we both liked strawberries dipped in chocolate. That's good.
Wow, sounds like you had some fun.
We sure did.
So I think the reason that our farm to school and gardening program has become so robust is a huge thanks to Miss Kathy, who just retired from Academy as a teacher and then went right to this position, and also all of the community partners that were mentioned. It's just really exciting to have these people driving this along and really making it possible, because it's something that people here want, but it's one of those things that's hard to drive when you're in the classroom teaching all day. So when you have these resources to really support it, it grows quickly, and it's really exciting to see where we've come from and where we're going next year.
And I'd also like to a big thank you to Kelly and John, because they have also been very supportive of this whole program and everything that I've been doing. And it's so exciting. They come out to the fire pits, they come out to the garden, they see what the kids are doing. So it's been wonderful having that support. So thank you.
Thank you. Gotta figure out why that happens. So we'll wrap it up. John and I just wanted to talk a little bit about activities for all seasons, going with the engagement and the use of our outdoor grounds, and thinking about ways to really create opportunities for kids to want to come to school, and thinking about skills that can be lifelong skills that they can learn here at school for the first time and carry on with them throughout their lives. So in the place of winter sports this year, we created something called Go Time, Get Outside Time. And that's just what it is. It's get outside time. We did some sledding, snowshoeing, cross-country skiing. We were able to use the T-bar at the Memorial Park Ski Hill and hike, make fires, use beak as animal tracking. So there were a lot of really exciting things that we can do right around our own campus in town that kids tried for the first time and really liked. So we are going to continue doing that in the snowy seasons. And year round, we'll continue driving the after school programs to grow. We had gotten a pretty robust offering list right before COVID hit. So we'll get back to that when we can. And many of you have heard about the bike program and the pump track a little bit, but I'll let John speak to that. And really the reasoning behind all of this, we go back to that behavior data that John mentioned earlier. All of the referrals that come from recess time, which is unstructured time, a lot of them came from students reporting a lack of high interest things to do. They're bored. They don't want to play a game, or they don't know how to initiate a game of play necessarily. So we were seeking to balance, the screen time with COVID, with a lack of physical activity, trying to get kids outside, re-engage them in a way where it takes kind of all of your focus when you're doing these activities, you're physically with your body. And having them want to come to school. You're going to learn how to ride a bike today. You're going to go cross country skiing with your class today. Let's try it. Let's try something new. And all of the staff are really on board, trying new things themselves, taking kids out at several different times of the day, because they know that it's good for kids and for them as well. So John, do you want to talk a little bit about the goals of this activities?
Sure. Sure. So I spoke to this body, I think about a year ago, with plans to build and develop a pump track back on the edge of our playground on the land that's actually owned by the Smith family. And so we did that last summer. We built a pretty large pump track that's been sort of branded as the Brattleboro Community Bike Park, available to all kids in our community outside of school hours, but well used by our student body. And that has sort of snowballed into what we're now calling the Academy School Bike Program, which has a number of different arms. One is just giving our students the ability to ride bikes throughout the school day. And so, at recess, during after school clubs, summer camps, summer clubs, various times throughout the day, students will have access to bikes and trails and areas on our playground to ride them in a safe way, as well as a bike education program, things like that. We're also working to establish and build actually a school bike shop on our campus. And I've been working a lot with people from Sustainable Brattleboro and other agencies in our community to establish a bike refurbishing program with the idea to get bikes in the hands of kids and families in our community. And so we've received many donations of bikes. And our goal is to work with local bike mechanics to give our students the skills to fix up bikes and to refurbish bikes, and then to redistribute them to students and families in our community, which is a program that we're pretty excited about. But with our outdoor sports and outdoor activities, one of our goals is to continue to foster community partnerships and working with, as I mentioned, local bike shops or local bike mechanics. This winter, we did our alpine skiing at Memorial Park at the T-Bar, which was a great sort of community collaboration that Kelly set up, which was really nice. And continue to foster a relationship with Brattleboro Outing Club and various other community agencies to sort of bridge the gap between school and community, but also give our students and their families access to outdoor activities that are sort of bountiful in our community, but not often accessed. And yeah, so that's some of our goals around that.
So this is our very last thing, and I appreciate everybody hanging in there and giving us the time to present. I think I mentioned this, but I was really excited to present tonight, and it's watching this presentation come together. I'm just in awe of the work that everybody here does every day, and incredibly grateful for the community that we have here and our kids, because they're so resilient. They come skipping into school every day. They greet us. They're so happy to be here. And that's what we want. We want happy, healthy kids, number one. And I think that our staff and our families have really supported that this year more than ever. And we're looking forward to continuing to grow together. So I will end with this video with some kids talking about what they love most about our school.
My favorite part about Academy School is the friendship and all the teachers, because all the teachers are very nice and people have a good friendship with each other. What I like about Academy School is that we learn through projects, and this year we built bridges. We were all learning about bridges, and so we pretended that there was a 20-foot river. So we built a bridge that would cross.
Last week, our class got to go up the river. We went like really, really far. We had a lot of fun. And we have gym is amazing. Get to go outside every day for gym. That's nice. We have enough room to do it.
The thing I like about school is that there's a lot of nice people. We get to meet new friends, and more nice people, and biking. And I'm so happy that we get to ride bikes. Good job, Lyra. I love Academy School, but I love everything about Academy School, but the thing that I love the most is all the specials. Okay, so I love all the fun I have, and also I love all the schoolwork I do. And I love literacy because it makes me have fun. I love Academy School because we had a fire today.
What I like about Academy School is how I feel like the teachers kind of like everyone and like their job and enjoy teaching, and a lot of fun things happen at Academy, like the pump track and other things like that, and going up to recess is really fun with playing with friends. So yeah. What I like about Academy School is that you can go around and you have a huge playground. You can go over to the play structure, or you can go over to the swings, or you can even go on the track some days.
I love everything about Academy School, but what I love most about that my classroom is fun. I like Academy School because you can have an equal amount of time to play and work. What I like about Academy School is this great community. People in my class are really nice, and also everybody in school, especially the teachers.
What I like about Academy School is like the community and how you can pretty much like do anything, like the pump track. We just like one day we were like, okay, let's just build this, and we just did, and then that's like a permanent staple, and like you can just make those so easily, and you can just make any change you want. And generally, like if you want to do something, just talk to the principal about it, and they can most of the time get it done. So yeah, mainly I just really like the community aspect of like all those things.
I like Academy School because I get to learn. I love Academy School because we get to learn, play in the forest. I love Academy School because we always go up to the woods and spend time with each other. My favorite part of Academy School is the pump track, and I get to ride bikes during the school day at recess.
And inside the school, we have a good classroom. We get to we have good math. We have good all subjects. They're actually pretty fun. They make them fun. And we got to play with robots today. And like a lot of my classmates are having a lot of fun doing it. And like we split their time equally. And we have like fun stuff. And we have like the stuff that you just got to get done, and we get that done first.
What I love about Academy School is that after school on Thursdays that I get to go biking with my best friends. I really like about Academy School is learning. I love Academy School because I love Academy because I love recess and lunch. I love about Academy School.
What do you love about Academy School?
All the working together. The best thing I love about Academy School is that I get to hang out with my friends and that I get to hang out with the teachers.
All right.
So thank you again for the opportunity to present. We're really proud of our school, and it's a place we truly love.
Thank you, Kelly. That was remarkable range of activities and information. And you said you were in awe of what the staff has done, and to think about where we were last year at this time and all the angst and all the, oh my God, how this is never going to work, it's going to be horrible. And to look at the what's happened, what all of you have done in all of these schools, and we've got one more to look at. It's amazing. It really is astonishing. It's almost like if you create a big enough problem and you need a solution, just give it to the teachers, whatever it is, and they'll fix it. They'll find a creative and effective and really positive way to get around it. I saw a couple of hands up earlier, and I definitely want people to have a chance to ask questions or make comments. We've been waiting all year to be able to, to hear what's going on in the schools and to hear from you and not just be focusing on emergency stuff. So we're happy to be listening and to take the time. So I saw Tim with a question. I think I saw another hand at some point as well.
Okay. Yeah, that was, can you hear me?
Yes.
That was an amazing presentation. It's just recently, Harvard School of Education came out with a long article about offering 18 ideas that came out of COVID that should carry on in years to come. Not one of them mentioned outdoor learning. I think our schools in Windham County are so far ahead of most schools when it comes to outdoor learning. There's just not one mention of that. Just a couple of thoughts. You collaborate with so many organizations in Brattleboro. It seems like one that is a natural for you would be the Rich Earth Institute, which uses urine, converts it into fertilizer. So Miss Kathy might check out the Rich Earth Institute if you aren't already. The share shed, that looks exactly like one I'm looking at Jamaica Cottage. And I think it would be, it's one of those ideas that I think would be great for all the schools in the district to use ESSER funds for. I know we'll be talking about ESSER funds, but what a good use of funds that would be. Buy a share shed. Other thoughts? John, I'm wondering if you intend to use panorama data for measuring social emotional learning.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, when we painted, when we're sort of making policy and procedure decisions within our school, we try to get as complete a data picture as we can. And we're certainly really looking forward to using that panorama data. I think it'll be quite useful in conjunction with other pieces of data that we collect as a school system and that we look at together. But yeah, yep, absolutely.
I think it's going to be really useful. And I won't take up any more time except to say that project-based learning is going to be really fascinating to see what kinds of different assessments you use for project-based instead of the traditional grading system that we've used for centuries. And I guess that's all for now, but what a great presentation. God, you make it such a privilege to be part of this district. Thank you.
Thank you. And you're spot on about the share shed. We did get it from the Jamaica Cottage shop, and that was Jody's brainchild. That really, Jody wrote a grant and was able to get the funds to purchase that shed a couple of years ago. So I'd love to see that expand, I think. And we have opened it up to other schools, but for accessibility, I think it would be nice to have every site have some kind of a shed or I know some schools have indoor storage as well.
I know, just one last quick question. Conservation, do you incorporate conservation and climate into all your lessons?
As much as we can, and I know with the addition project coming up, that's a big focus as well. Thinking about our land and how we can preserve what we have and also repair some of what is going on underneath the school building. And we look a lot at the erosion around the brook and things like that. So we're very careful as well when we're in the forest to not leave a trace that's part of the reason that we don't create big structures for outdoor classrooms. It's all take in, take out, minus the kindergarten area with the Jamaica Cottage shed also. But that's a big piece of, we want to respect the land that we're on.
You're doing a great job. Thank you, Kelly.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, we'll move on to Herv and the Putney presentation. And Herv, you're welcome to share your screen. I got your email about
Yeah.
from here, but
I should be all set with that. That's really nice job, Kelly and John. It was really informative. So when I approached this task, I thought about, okay, so what's the best way to sort of present this? And I have a long history as a photographer, and I'm just sort of dabbling with video now and editing and so forth. So I thought, hey, you know what? I have a ton of stuff that lives on my phone and in other places. So why don't I try to consolidate some of that into a video that can sort of paint a picture of what we've been about at Putney Central over the past little bit. As far as the past year goes, since March 13th, which was our sort of, I don't know, denouement, whatever. But I think that we've made a conscious effort as a faculty and staff to really focus on relationships and what that means to our lives as adults, as children, as family, and as community members to be the best possible people that we can be. And that's really been the focus. And so everything that we do sort of tentacles off of that, I guess, and as sort of like that spider web in a positive sense, that's created a tremendous feeling of community in our building. And I think the other piece is out of that came a natural affinity for increasing empathy, right? Being kinder with each other and with the kids, and teaching them how to do the same through our work with SEL and so forth. So what I did was I put together this video. Let me see where it is. Yep. It says the runtime is 35 minutes, but that's a little goof on my part. It's actually 28 minutes. So we can take a look at that. Is my screen there, David?
Not yet, but have you clicked on the share?
Let me see. Oh, I have to accept, right?
Down at the bottom.
Let me see. Yeah. Share screen. Got it. Okay. Here we go. Let me get that. Get rid of that. Now, can you see it?
Not yet.
Oh, really? Damn. Excuse me. Let me get back to that. Oh, goes to show you how often I do it. Hold on. This is being recorded for posterity. I just moved the video screen. Oh, come on. Hold on. Back to Zoom. All right. Let's get this going here. Share screen. Click. Oh, I see what's going on. Okay.
Got it.
All right. So here we go. Not that. That's the George Floyd stuff. It's right here. All right. Sorry for the delay. Here we go.
Perfect.
Okay. Just going to pause it for a second. Can people hear the audio portion of it?
No. No, we're
Really?
not getting any audio.
Really?
Irv, you have
It's
to
playing.
it's your headphones. If you take your
Say
headphones,
that again?
it's because of your headphones.
Oh,
You have to disconnect.
oh, thank you. Good point. All right. That was good. Let me,
Plug them too.
with your indulgence, I'll just start it again and just give me a thumbs up if, John, I can see you on my screen if you can hear the audio. Okay. Sorry about that. Amateurville here. Okay.
Irv, there's no sound in this segment. Is that by plan? You're muted.
Do you hear?
Yes.
Brown?
You were muted.
Okay. I get it. Okay.
Boy, here, let's see. This would be 2014-15 school year, I believe, when we moved from a food service management company to becoming independent for multiple reasons. But I think the basic one is we wanted to have kind of more control over what the kids wanted and what the parents wanted, to be able to cater more to giving them, I guess some autonomy, within the school system. Secondly, trying to, purchase more local products, not that it wasn't necessarily done before this. We kind of connected with a lot of local people, and we really wanted to kind of support, the immediate community. So talk a little bit about the COVID experience. Boy, kind of changes everything. We still do basically all scratch cooking, and are trying to maintain as much normalcy as possible, but with a lot of COVID restrictions, it really limits a lot of the stuff that we've become kind of known for, namely the salad bar. I mean, we have a very extensive salad bar usually, and without COVID, really can't do that. So it's definitely put a little kink, into our system, and we can't purchase a lot of the things we used to purchase. We went through tons and tons of produce before, and so that's decreased that because we have to unitize meals, and so you need more foods that are amenable to being able to quickly and easily unitize a meal, especially last spring when everything was being bagged. It's really difficult to package up salads and things like that, especially when you consider the cost of the produce and the cost of all the extra packaging. Our supplies budget has gone through the roof with all of the packaging supplies we've had to purchase. And we try to get more, packaging that's much more environmentally sustainable, compostable and recyclable and things like that. And it's more expensive, but what you pay for now, you're not paying for later on. It's an investment in the future, and the kids seem to appreciate that as do parents.
So, how many meals were you guys churning out last spring? A week?
We had about 120, 130 kids.
Yep.
So we would do breakfast and lunch for those kids every day. In the spring, it was delivered with the bus routes. The lunches would get on the bus at 11 and bus drivers would do their routes and distribute them. And then in the fall, we just switched to hybrid mode and started delivering the meals to classes, and most of the kids ate outside. Some of the kids ate outside throughout the whole winter, which is fantastic. And yeah, it's been working. We do a lot of walk-in, a lot of delivering, a lot of cooking, and it works.
So every day, any remote family that wants to pick up a lunch and a breakfast can do so. And we have them available for pickup between 11 and 11:30. And every Tuesday, any student at school who wants a breakfast and a lunch for Wednesday can have it. And we deliver those on Tuesday afternoon for breakfast and lunch on Wednesday.
Turn, cut up off the side, bud. Cut aside. Your turn. Everyone's gonna wait. Wait a second. Nice job.
Oops.
So I'm Carrie. I'm normally the librarian here at PCS, and this year I was asked to step in as a third grade teacher at the very last minute. So it was a bit of an adjustment. It definitely helped that I have a background in classroom teaching, and some of the perks were actually getting to know the kids in a really different way, spending all day with them. So I'm also one of the teacher leaders for our social justice committee, and we've been doing a lot of great work this year. We meet every other week as a committee, and we kind of have a book group, and we discuss various topics related to social justice. And then we put on a monthly PD for the staff, and the staff has been really engaged with the work and thinking about kind of how to apply what we're talking about to their teaching and to the materials and books that they share with students.
I'm Sarah Cassidy, and I teach kindergarten. The school year has been full of surprises and full of sort of unexpected joys, especially our time in the forest. The pandemic sort of gave us an opportunity to use our outside spaces more than we ever have before, and taking the children out into the woods every single day has been really, really magical. And hopefully that's something that will continue from here on out. I think that everyone has seen the benefits of it. The children love it, and so do I.
Maybe she'll fly up.
So I was really excited to come back to school this year to finally do something really different. Okay. And I think our takeaways are going to be amazing. I love that we use our outside space. One of our chronic problems in middle school have been kids so tight together and lockers and pushing and bathrooms. And now they use the outside. We're outside a lot. We move on the outside. We also change, rather than every 45 minutes going from class to class, we have these huge blocks of time. We're keeping our pods together and our cohorts together. So you go to English on Monday morning and you stay in English. You stay in English all morning. It's been wonderful. It's been really tough on the teachers. It's a lot of work. But breaks are always taken with your class, and activities are built into your subjects. The students seem to really enjoy having lunch together in their small class and then going back to another class in the afternoon. I think we need to look at taking some of these ideas and moving it into next year. I also think that over the years, we've kept kids too tight together. We're always sitting so tight and shoulder to shoulder and in lines. And I think the kids have really benefited from having personal space and being able to maybe work more independently because they have the space and they don't feel like they're so crowded with each other.
Hi, I'm Ellen Strong. I'm a parent of a second grader and a fourth grader here. This is our fourth year at Putney Central. We moved here from Austin, Texas, and one of the main reasons we came here was so that our kids could grow up in Vermont. And as soon as we came to Putney, we felt at home. We felt welcomed. We loved the outdoor education. We loved the farm to school and the social emotional learning. And every year has proven us right.
We have had such a busy year here at Putney Central School. I'm the counselor, and we have really, built a strong emphasis on social emotional learning this year, because that's really what the kids need. They need to learn and talk about their feelings and how to deal with hard things while also having fun. And so we've done a lot of that this year. We've really built great relationships, and I have built my own really great relationships with my school nurse, Nicole. We decided to collaborate this year because nursing and counseling, there's just such a great opportunity to bridge and collaborate. And so we've been working together in many classrooms doing social emotional learning, topics like feelings, to stress management, to nutrition, to you name it.
Also relationships. We've worked really well together, and we're going to continue this to next year. We work in middle school primarily now, but maybe we'll expand that next year.
Yeah, we have talked about curriculum that we want to, look into and explore more on really great topics. So we're really excited about this work that we're doing together. All right. So mindfulness with students, we talk about it as paying attention to what's happening moment to moment without judging it, so thinking it's good or thinking it's bad, and being aware of what's happening as it's happening. And it's so important for children to have that kind of awareness so that they can make choices based on how they're feeling. So if they notice they're feeling upset, they can take a break, take some breaths before they act on that emotion. So kind of putting a little pause in between the emotion and the response. This is a skill that we're working on, and I find it doesn't take a lot, just some small breaths. You don't need a lot of things with you. You just need your body and your breath. So I find that to be very helpful for students and teachers in the classroom, and so we work on that a little bit every day. The best part of being part of Putney Central School is wonderful staff and wonderful children.
The best part about working at Putney Central is working with a team of people who really care about their community.
The best part about Putney Central is the joy that the kids bring every day.
I love how supportive Putney Central School is to families and for teachers, for everybody.
This year we spent more time in the forest than we ever had before. What I saw happening in a positive way was the building of community that the kids had to build that outdoor classroom for themselves. We made a little fairy village out there in the winter. We talked about the different changes in the seasons, and we made snow people, and we did work with symmetry and did so many things out there, putting on a play that's all about the forest and what we learned in the forest, about the trees. And I would like to continue going out there and using the forest, even though we may not need to, hopefully, with this pandemic behind us.
What's the best part of the forest life?
I think that I like it because we can run around so much.
It's a park
for the gate, right?
And in the city, you can't do that. You're just stuck in your apartment all the time.
So what are you about to show me?
How the tippy tap works.
Tippy tap. Now, I'm not familiar with that. What is that thing?
It's an outdoor station to wash hands with.
Oh, to wash your hands. Okay. So how does it work?
You pull on the sticks. We used to have it as a pedal, but now one of the jobs for out in the forest might be helping people wash their hands.
This year we've learned a lot of valuable lessons about how to best educate children outdoors, and we're going to take those lessons into the future and really build on the success that we've started this year in subsequent years in having the forest be an integral part of our learning experience.
Oh, wait. Yes!
We are not the same way we came. So reset your stopwatch is back to 0. We're now going to go from here to the first grade.
Guys all ready? Okay. Hi, my name is Dominic, and I'm going to be telling a story that's similar to Snow, Sleeping Beauty. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Jen. Jen was the quiet type.
Hey everybody, my name is Matt Bristol and I'm the physical education teacher here at Putney Central, and I just wanted to share a few thoughts about this year as we've been teaching in COVID. Definitely pushed me outside my comfort zone, which is a great thing. We don't really grow and get better inside our comfort zone, right? So we got to get outside that box, and used to teaching inside, you know, taking the kids out on super nice days, but for the most part, phys ed pre-COVID has been inside. And the biggest thing I've noticed is I've made a big push with the support from Herb and Steve Napoli, the custodian, and all the teachers as well, to teach as much as possible outside. And I'd say we did a really good job with that this year, teaching probably somewhere around 80 to 90% of our classes outside for physical education. And it challenges me, it challenges the students to be prepared for whatever weather comes. But I think it's really important that kids are playing in sunshine, rain, mud, whatever, all the different environments that we have, because that's life. And it's just nice to get outside and get your hands dirty and feel the fresh air and the sun. And it's also important being in Vermont to experience the cold winters and learn how to deal with that kind of stuff. So I think that's been the biggest challenge, but also the most fun part about this year is learning how to tackle that challenge and be outside with the kids.
So talk about Gary from that experience forward.
Yeah, so I think the big reason I was outside in the first place is space inside was limited. Activities you could do with students inside was limited. And so it just made more sense to be outside for safety for everybody. So going forward, I've realized though, being outside in the different environments is really fun and allows you to do a lot of different things. It's hard to incorporate things like technology or visuals, but there's ways around that. And I'm looking forward to finding ways around that obstacle of using more technology outside and more visuals outside for those learners that need more than just the audio. But going forward, I really look forward to continuing kind of the model I had this year, which is teaching outside as much as possible.
So this year in remote learning, some things that have gone well are I like my teachers in remote learning and getting to meet new students. And I think Google Classroom has been pretty easy to manage. So that's good for like organizing things. Some things that haven't gone as well are it's just harder to ask questions and stuff through Zoom or email because like the teachers aren't with you in person. So it's sometimes harder to reach people. But I have some friends in my class and advisory, so I'm able to talk to my classmates if I have questions on something.
Go ahead, talk about your experience with the remote world.
Well, so I enjoy being able to have freedom over when I do my work, and so my teacher uses a Google Classroom, which allows me to pick when I want to do work, and she said as long as I get the work done by the end of the week, I could do it maybe tomorrow if I have something going on today, and I like the freedom in that. I also like the privacy sometimes of being able to go eat lunch at like 11 if I wanted to instead of 12. So there's a lot of freedom in it and flexibility. That's my favorite part about it. The worst parts are I don't really have a lot of like social time. I mean, I have my friend Jay, and we talk sometimes, but yeah, there's a little bit of downsides. some upsides.
So say a little bit about what the experience has been.
Well, it's been really fun sometimes, and sometimes it's hard, but it's a lot of times easy to do work when you're by yourself and with other people online instead of being in the same room, because you can be separated into like breakout rooms and on Zoom, and it makes it a lot easier to do work because then you have someone else that can work with you or other students and not a whole lot of them.
With school, I don't know, I'm kind of weird compared to the rest of the kids in my class because I actually like school, but yeah, it was hard for everybody.
We've had to change our program a lot this year. Our students are typically out and about, and unfortunately have not been able to this year. We have been considered our own pod, and I'm hoping next year maybe we can get out and about more with our kids.
The best part of being at PCS is the kids. I just had a student in here who was stuck on the idea.
Hi, I'm Don Linden. I teach science in grades 6 through 8 in Putney. And it's been an amazing year. We've had to keep changing things so fast all year long that it's taken a tremendous amount of energy. But it's been so nice how people have adapted to the situation. I think there are some great things to learn from this. One of them is just learning to be more flexible in what we're doing and considering all the resources that we have available that can really make things happen better for the learning of our kids. Maybe especially considering more online options when students are sick and things like that is a great thing to do. This is my 37th year here at Putney Central and 39 in the district. And it's been fantastic. It's been such a pleasure to work with the kids and the adults all these years. We've been through so many different things, and more new things will come in the future.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for her in the Putney programs? I see Bethany.
Hi. I had a couple of thoughts, not necessarily about Putney, but tied into that. I really enjoy these presentations by the schools and getting to see what's going on with them, and getting to kind of get a flavor for, or get a sense of what the flavor of each school is. And I just wanted to throw out there, I didn't raise my hand after the Academy presentation, but I just wanted to throw out that I run the Why Aspire program after school at Academy School, and I have loved this spring watching my kiddos come into my program like just covered in mud or with their hair dripping because they were in the stream in the afternoon. Or, you know, a couple of them might wander in a little bit later because they're getting changed into new pants because they were in the stream and they fell in the mud, or they're, you know, they're just so happy and, you know, and vibrant, and seeing them the impact of being outside has made just on the kids has been really, really fun to see. And also just the intensely hard work that the teachers are doing in general, whether for outdoor education or indoor. It's been pretty remarkable to watch. So from a semi-outside perspective, I am observing how hard they're working and also just the impact that nature education has on at least a sampling of the kids, which ties in a little bit to the Putney one. I heard a lot about the Nature Education Academy in Putney. I know Dummerston has a really good sort of natural location for a lot of outdoor education. I'm wondering if there might be or what might be possible for thinking in terms of going forward based on even what Tim was saying about outdoor education being so important to maybe explore ways that the kids at the schools that don't have those big outdoor spaces might be able to tap into outdoor spaces better, whether it's tapping into spaces at our schools and field trips to them, or whether it's finding spaces nearby the schools that don't have them, like Oak Grove, Green Street, even BAMS and BUHS. Like, how can we tap into that for them to get that accessible to them? And that's not necessarily a question that needs answered tonight. And then also, I heard a couple of the Putney kids. I actually really loved that in the Putney presentation, there were a couple of the Putney kids that talked about, sorry, I know I'm going on, this is my last thought, talked about their remote learning. And there were some really cool comments in there. One of them was saying that he really liked the freedom of the scheduling with it. And another one was saying that it seemed like it was easier to learn sometimes in a smaller group versus a big classroom. And I also am curious, if there's if any of the schools have been planning on figuring out a way to incorporate any of the good thoughts and good things that have come from the remote learning, or if there will continue to be options for remote learning for kids that works well for. I don't know that that's specifically for Putney and Academy, but just my thoughts on it. And the presentations tonight were really great. Thank you to the principals for those.
Thank you. Those are all questions and topics and ideas and thoughts that have come up, and it's all to be unraveled as we go along into next year. It's going to be very interesting to see how this transitions into whatever comes next. Other questions or comments? Tim.
Just a really good presentation, Herb. And I hope nobody missed the credits at the end. I like how you credit the kids for making it fun. And what a terrific rookie season our superintendent is having. I'd say he's in contention for Rookie of the Year.
May well be.
Thank you, Herb.
Thank you.
Thanks. I see no other comments. So we will move on to Deb Cardane and the recovery plan and the use of ESSER funds. So we're definitely moving right into the future.
That was a well-timed comment, asking what's to come,
yeah.
Like a plant. I believe this is going to be Paul Smith and I are going to team up on this. Paul, you here?
I am here.
There he is. Awesome. Paul, are you okay with sharing your screen?
I'll share the screen.
Awesome. And you're going to start us off, right?
Yeah, hang on. Let me get there. Just a sec. Oops.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I'll get there.
I'll chat while you're playing till you. Okay. I just want to say those presentations were awesome and very confirming in the things that we're talking about and thinking about. And I appreciate that the board provides the time to hear about kids and schools and teachers.
It's the level of creativity is it's astonishing. Just astonishing.
Yep, sure is.
Sorry, my cursor isn't working. There it is. Okay.
Oh,
got it.
Nope, got the wrong one. Hang on, wrong screen. Just a sec. Try that again.
You want me to give it a try?
No, I got it. Okay.
There it is.
Okay. Get back to the beginning here. Okay, Deb, I'm going to start out, right?
That's our plan.
Okay, here we go. So the request, I think, was to talk about planning for ESSER and what plans are in place, and consultation, getting information, getting feedback. But really, what we need to do first is sort of talk a little bit about what the funding sources are and what the plans are. Want to make a distinction between the first round of funding back last year at this time was the CRF that ran through the Department of Treasury, and then subsequently specific support to schools came through the emergency elementary, that's a typo, elementary and secondary school emergency relief, the ESSER fund. And in fact, there are 3 ESSER funds, all emanating from the U.S. Department of Education, not the Treasury Department. So there's a totally different set of rules applied to them. ESSER 1 was first, obviously, that was actually initially opened up last year around this time. ESSER 2 opened up, but has only recently sort of been applied for and received this spring. And then ARP ESSER 3 funds are coming. The application is only now starting. We are not actually able to apply for those funds yet. The important point is that all of the ESSER funds, as I say, run through U.S. Department of Education, and therefore they flow like Title I and Title IIA and Title IV money flows. That is to say, from the federal government to the state, from the state to the LEAs, and they have the same constraints, the federal requirements for procurement, reporting, time, and effort. So for instance, if we're hiring someone to do some work using these federal ESSER dollars, we need to provide a time and effort guarantee. It's a form that gets signed for that person signs saying, yes, these federal funds are paying my salary. I am doing to do this job, and I am actually doing that job. Procurement, all of the procurement requirements of the federal government are in place. All of the documentation has to be there. So the ESSER funds are specifically provided, and this is straight from the Secondary Education Office of the Department of Education, Federal Department of Education, for the purpose of providing local education agencies. So it goes from the state to the local education agencies with emergency relief funds to address the impact that COVID-19 has had and continues to have on elementary and secondary schools across the nation. In other words, it's for a response to COVID. For Vermont, the LEA is the supervisory union, and each ESSER grant has a unique, slightly different, many things in common, but each ESSER grant, 1, 2, and 3, has a list of allowable uses to which those funds can be applied. So as well, there are some required plans. The LEA has to create a recovery plan that's due on June the 1st, coming up. The time frame for that is 4+ years. It's a long-term plan. The reopening plan, which is a federal requirement and is a shorter-term plan, it's how are you going to reopen schools in September of this year, in the fall of this year. And then the third plan is the ARP ESSER LEA plan that's due in late August. The time frame for that is the same as the time frame for ESSER 3 funding, which is about 3 years into finishing up FY24. So those 3 plans. Recovery plan is a state mandate. It came first. The focus is really on, it's like a continuous improvement plan. The focus is on schools, creating schools and supervisory unions, creating improvement plans that are long-term plans. And the notion, and as part of that, there's a stakeholder group that's the part of the Recovery Advisory Committee. And Deb is going to talk about the recovery plan. And then I'll come back and talk about the other 2 plans. Go ahead, Deb.
All right. So I'm excited to share with you the progress that we've made across the past few months and thinking towards the year ahead. We've been working since March. I'm going to share an overview of our plans so far and then also our next steps. So before I begin, I do want to take a moment to reflect. Over the past 14 months, we've become so skilled at building things while we're in action. And we all remember this time last year. I think we spoke a lot about building the plane while we were flying it. And as I thought about that, and then thought about our year that we just came or almost finished with, it really feels like we've built over a dozen fleets of planes. We've been working in action across the year, and it's been exhausting, but also exhilarating. And I think, as you've seen from all the presentations, these the things that are happening in our schools are exciting, and we're excited to support that work as we move forward. The accomplishments have been a result of harnessing tremendous creativity, taking great risks, collaborating with colleagues, holding each other up, forging paths into unknown territories, and constantly reflecting and remaining flexible. That's become our way of being, and I celebrate that. And the path ahead of us is really no different. So our teachers, our leaders, our community will undoubtedly continue to apply our learning from across the year to inform how we do our work in the years to come. Hopefully this is going to lead to exciting shifts in the way we do school. So much of this work is evident in the plan that I'm going to share tonight. You can move to the next slide. So first I wanted to start with words from the AOE, direct words from the AOE. So I want to begin with an overview of the structure that the Agency of Education has asked us to move through. And then I want to identify where we are in that process. So the first thing that they asked us to do is to assess the need at the local level using readily available information and data. And that readily available information was very intentional because they knew the timeline that we were under. In March and April, our leadership team took time to reflect on 3 areas identified by the state using measures that were readily available to us and identify goals based on those needs we were seeing in our schools. You'll hear more about that. Then we're asked to create an action plan to meet that need. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. This is what we're currently in the process of doing. We've had multiple recovery teams working on this, meeting weekly to collaborate and develop plans for meeting the needs that we've brought forward and to bring them into next year. Our recovery advisory team, which included teacher representatives, community members, representatives of community organizations, also met weekly. There have been a lot of meetings. Some of the discussions that have occurred within these but specifically within the advisory team, have given us really important opportunity to develop insights and key understandings about the experiences of our community members, but also of our teachers. And we've tried to apply these ideas along the way as well. And so as I share our plan, I'll attempt to point these areas out, but certainly ask if I miss anything. Next step they're asking for is executing an initial implementation plan, and that will occur next year. And finally, tuning and refining the plan along the way. This is an important component and I think a really exciting one. So they're asking not just to create a plan and implement it, but they're also asking us to evaluate our work and reflect across the coming year, adjusting along the way. This is something we've become very skilled in the work that we've been doing this year. And now we get to add the layer of data. The focus will help us drive improvements in our data system overall. And we hope to develop additional methods of gathering and analyzing data, expanding it to include a concept of data use in general. This plan's designed to occur in 4 phases. Phase 1 was the initial plan that was submitted in April. Phase 2 is what I'll share with you tonight. And phase 3 and 4 will be implementation and reflection next year. So next slide. I just wanted to take a quick moment and talk about the feedback that we've incorporated. Feedback comes in many forms, and we've worked really hard across the year to pay close attention and to gather as much feedback as we could along the way as possible. So this includes more than what we traditionally consider feedback in the way of surveys or public forums. And I just wanted to highlight some of the things that we have intentionally drawn on in order to develop this plan. That includes discussions, staff meeting discussions, board meeting discussions, leadership meetings, and our recovery team meetings. The presentations from our schools have been incredibly helpful in gleaning information about how things are working in our schools. Email correspondence, Paul and I and central office folks, our coaches, we hear from teachers, leaders, and community members on a frequent basis, as well as meeting with them. Our observations and principals' observations. Principals are in the classrooms each and every day. They observe the challenges, they observe successes of our teachers, and then they share them back with the leadership team. And then, of course, the presentations during these board meetings, we've been so fortunate to get a glimpse of these wonderful things that are happening. and all these things that are shared with great pride by the principals and the teachers. And we've really paid attention to each and every one of these very intentionally, and tried to incorporate the valuable insights from that feedback into the plan that we're going to share. All right. So a quick overview of the pillars. These are from the state. We've talked about these before. There are 3 of them, and they are the social emotional learning and mental health pillar, engagement and truancy, and academic achievement and success. So the state has asked that we focus our work in these 3 areas, which has provided a frame for our work. And you'll see that frame as I talk about what we're going to do. Next slide, needs-based planning. So our assessment of the needs of our students included the 3 areas of focus. And this is really the result of phase 2 of our work. I do want to ask that we all consider that these goals and initiatives that we've identified are starting points. And I want everyone to understand that these ideas will continue to grow and change across the upcoming year with the feedback and continued reflection that we're planning to incorporate. The results from our needs assessment provided insight into a few areas. So, social emotional learning, we're in the process of implementing the Panorama survey tool for reflecting the social and emotional well-being of our students. These results are incomplete at this point. Preliminary results have indicated some potential areas for focus, including student self-management, engagement, and grit. These categories may likely expand once we've compiled all of our results, and those results will include students and families' perspectives as well. In the area of agency, engagement and truancy, our attendance data indicated that students who have been absent for 15 or more days has doubled since COVID. And in the area of academic achievement, our special education inclusion data indicated that participation rates for our special ed students is lower than the state average, and our underserved populations of students are not scoring as well on SBAC as their peers. So those are our kind of 3 focus areas of data that we're using to develop this plan. It is by no means exhaustive, and we are eager to expand on that across the coming year. So based on those results, we've established an overarching goal to provide equitable core instruction that is accessible for all of our students. We also want our schools to be highly engaging places where our students experience a strong sense of belonging and where they want to be every day. So next slide. With that in mind, those goals in mind, based on those needs that I identified, we also want to bring forward the lessons that have been learned. And so I've got a list here, although there are many. So as we look towards next year, there are many things to bring forward. These lessons have been powerful, and they've emerged across the year with the work that we've done with our students. So one being collaboration. You've heard that mentioned multiple times tonight. In particular, teachers have expressed how powerful their collaboration with their teams and across their schools has been in helping them meet the challenges that they've faced. Another one being innovation. We can't ignore the importance of honoring innovation. This has always been a strong belief for us, but across this year, it's been vital in fueling exciting opportunities for our kids, as well as designing the solutions to the problems as they emerge. Back to that, building the plane while we're flying it. Our equity and inclusion practices, we've always had a wide variety of students and strengths and needs in our classrooms, and we expect the year ahead to bring even more diversity. Diverse experiences, skill levels, background knowledge, cultural differences. Across the year, teachers have worked extremely hard to meet these differences, and we'll need to continue that work in the fall. We recognize that. Also meeting the students where they're at. You've heard a lot of that tonight as well. Our students have had a wide range of experiences across the year, and we know how important it's going to be prepared to meet them where they are when they come through the doors next year. Teachers have expressed appreciation for the prioritized standards that we provided, and we are looking to carry them forward into next year for a variety of reasons. We've also heard concerns about how teachers will be able to meet this wide variety of learners and needs in their classrooms, and we'll speak to that as well. Cultivating deep learning and engaging curriculum, that's the fun stuff. Again, as you've heard from almost every school, exciting things have been happening across the school and the district as teachers have worked to engage students in relevant hands-on experiential learning opportunities. Technology, our skills in technology use have grown exponentially The potential support of students' independence and connections cannot be overlooked, and that will be part of our work in the fall. And of course, building partnerships with families. You heard the last presentation we had with our remote teachers, the stories of the very close relationships that they were building with families and how powerful that was. And I think carrying that forward will be a beautiful thing. And I think it's driven a lot of exciting work as well. So I'm sure there's more, but these are the ones that have come up time and time again. And as you've undoubtedly noticed with our presentations that have happened tonight and in meetings before. So next slide. Okay, so the plan. This is where we're at. And again, this is the beginning. We have really identified a lot of the wonderful things that are happening, and we feel that investing in our teachers is of the first and foremost priority. So we have a lot of plans around professional development, supporting the work that's been started across the year, and then providing structures for extending that learning that has begun. We want to set the stage for maintaining the momentum for change and growth that has emerged this year. One of those, the tools for that exists in Universal Design for Learning. So Universal Design for Learning is a framework for designing learning opportunities that meet the needs of a wide variety of learners in our classrooms. This framework holds at its core a goal of supporting students to become drivers of their own learning. This is all going to sound very familiar, and I couldn't have asked for a better presentation tonight than to hear from some of the schools that we heard from. This means instruction aims to go beyond delivering content. It encourages our students to become critical thinkers and reflective learners. The main principles of UDL is the short version, are multiple means of representation, multiple means of expression or action, and multiple means of engagement. And what that means is that students from a wide variety of learning styles are honored and supported and within a general education design, which is a huge part of our goal. UDL will also provide a structure for reflecting on where our learning around technology will be incorporated. So within these principles, structures for offering students voice and choice in their learning are also part of the design, providing flexibility in the classroom for students with a goal of guiding them to direct their own learning. As you've heard many of our remote teachers, as well as the most recent research that's available, students developing skills in self-direction are one of the most profound positive outcomes of our experiences across this year. We feel that delving into this framework as a district is going to support the continued development of these practices. Inquiry-based approaches to learning. Some of our most exciting stories, like many that you heard from Academy and Putney this evening, are rely and rest in an inquiry-based approach toward learning, project-based learning, place-based learning, nature-based learning, play-based learning. In addition, both of our science standards, NGSS, and our social studies standards, which are C3, hold inquiry at the heart of their approach towards instruction. So these instructional models are designed to spark curiosity in learners, engage them in asking and answering their own questions. And these questions are interesting and relevant to them. So questions that they care about, investigating content in order to learn. The power of inquiry has absolutely been harnessed across this year, resulting in increased engagement, not only for our students, but for our teachers as well. And we want to continue to support that work. And what's a beautiful thing is that UDL and inquiry layer very nicely right into each other. So they are a perfect complement for each other. In addition, equity and diversity work, it's clear that the work needs to be embedded across all of our curriculum design. The important work that our diversity teacher leaders, led by Michaela, will continue, and there will be multiple paths for this work within the two approaches described above. For example, in a UDL framework, we aim to develop an understanding of the diversity of our students and design learning opportunities that reflect the variety of personalities, cultures, and interests in our classrooms. For another example, in inquiry-based learning, there's a commitment to exploring relevant topics, which lends itself to tackling social justice issues with a real purpose for making change. So we're really looking to integrate as many of these pieces as we can in order to create a very comprehensive experience for our students and our teachers. all of that will be supported, hopefully, through embedded coaching in classrooms. We also recognize the very important work that's happening in classrooms and how difficult it is when we take teachers out of the classroom in order for them to do their own learning. So one of the a way to support teachers' continued growth across the year is to provide building-based coaching at each school. And so if we're able to find these individuals, these coaches will work closely with Jim Knight's organization, the leading experts in evidence-based coaching methods. They'll work alongside teachers in classrooms, continually working to improve practice and around the implementation of UDL, co-designing engaging universally accessible units of instruction. So this form of PD is found to have a much higher impact on developing teacher expertise, building a culture of improvement through intentional practice of reflection, goal setting, and growth-oriented collaboration. In other words, our coaches will be guiding our teachers through their own learning trajectory that matches the very model teachers will be employing with their students. And lastly, PLCs, which is facilitated professional learning communities. In order to honor our teachers' variety of passions and interests, our curriculum and assessment team will be organizing a menu of focus groups who will have the opportunity to delve more deeply into specific areas within the topics listed above. So this could include a book group focusing on diversity or play-based learning, or a specific component of project-based learning, like developing strategies for students to direct their own learning. So that's the professional development portrait. Next, for mental health and social emotional supports, we're on to the next pillar. We do anticipate that there's likely to be a variety of mental health and social emotional needs next year, particularly as we welcome all of our students back to school. Our remote students will not have been in school buildings for well over a year. We plan to hire additional staff.
Paul has the wrong slide up.
Oh, back one, Paul.
Slide.
There you go. Good catch.
Thank you.
We plan to hire additional staff in areas like social work, counseling, family engagement, behavior support, in order to support both families and our students in adjusting to the year and the challenges it will bring. We're currently working together, collaborating. Our principals are collaborating to identify crucial roles that the schools will need to have in place to provide the support for students both in and out of school. In addition, our schools will have the opportunity to engage in PD around developing areas that will support our students' well-being and sense of belonging within the classroom. The schools are in a wide variety of places with this work, including building teacher knowledge around things like trauma-informed practices, social emotional programming like developmental designs, restorative circles, and more. And in addition, we want to also work to utilize Panorama as a tool for measuring, reflecting on, and developing our social emotional supports for students. So this work will continue across the year in our buildings, and we'll provide district level support for that. And now we're ready for summer and after school programming. Lastly, planning our work for summer programming is well underway. I'm super thrilled to report that we have close to 200 WSESU elementary students who will be participating in summer camp this summer. Our elementary camp will be focused primarily on providing an engaging, fun, socially rich experience with embedded academics each day for our students. We are partnering with Brattleboro Town and Rec, Winston Prouty Campus, the Bookmobile, and we're still arranging more partnerships. We've employed a number of students who will be returning to Brattleboro from college this summer. And our coordination team is sharing the responsibility of putting it all together. We're very excited for the fun ahead. It's been a pretty fun ride. Paul is going to share about the secondary plans for summer.
Sure, I've been working with the secondary principals on this part of the plan. Basically, there's a couple of pieces. There's the longstanding Beams summer program, really sort of beefing that up, making that a big splash. That will be provided to between 60 and 70 students in a variety of Richmond opportunities, field trips, et cetera. Based at BAMS, but with, as I say, with field trips elsewhere. And then the last one, the enrichment and credit recovery, not as, I don't have numbers on that yet, but the focus is really going to be on a combination of providing opportunities for students that haven't been able to make the credits during this very difficult time, giving them some opportunities in some different ways to get those credits. And then also alongside that, an enrichment piece. One piece that is clear is happening in terms of enrichment that's really exciting is Steve Rice, Tom Nishaka, Elise Wadsworth have got together to create, and I hope folks have heard about this, Monday evenings for a long chunk of time during the summer. There will be a sort of an open student and community band opportunity, broken into two parts. Some easier, more middle elementary level pieces that folks can work on, and then the second part of the evening will be a little bit more advanced pieces. I'm sure you will be hearing much more about that, but save your Monday nights. If you play an instrument, save your Monday nights this summer for having some fun with that. Back to you, Deb.
All right, I might have to get my flute out. Okay, well, so as far as next year and after school programming, our next step is going to be to begin planning for that. It's likely going to include multiple outside organizations. We are hoping to provide academic and enrichment opportunities. Planning is very much in the initial phases, and there's lots of ideas out there, so more to come on that. And looking ahead, just a reminder, this is our initial plan. It's going to continue to grow and develop across the coming year through collaborative reflection and revision with our teachers and our staff and community members. Our advisory team will continue to support development of pathways for communication and feedback around the plan as it exists, as well as how we'll gather relevant information from our staff and stakeholders across the year. School-based teams are going to continue to carry these plans forward in their buildings, identifying related goals based on their own unique experiences and environments. And then finally, I just want to express how important it has been to have access to these federal relief funds that have been allocated to support the work of supporting our students and our families as we move into the year ahead of us. It's a tremendous opportunity to continue to support the implementation of the exciting work that has started this year. And I really look forward to what's to come. So thanks for the chance to share that.
So the state has asked us to create this recovery plan that really looks to start, sort of has already started and looks to go well into the future and recover, what's the term, building back better, recovering to a better place than we were prior to the pandemic. And that's really came first and really is the larger plan. Subsequently, the federal government has asked that two additional plans be created. One is a reopening plan that is specifically for safe return to in-person education and continuity of services. And the notion is if the federal government really wants us to be very clear and open and straightforward about what reopening next year is going to look like in terms of safety for everyone, in terms of having some options if there is a return of the coronavirus, or if there's some need to switch to other modes. I think the plan really is to open in a sort of regular school year approach, but with some options available. And the notion is that it would be based on our fall 2020 plan, at least in terms of covering all the bases. The plan wouldn't be the same. The plan would be for as much in-person instruction, presumably regular in-person instruction, but with some safety valves built in. So it would be essentially an edit using those categories from the fall 2020 plan. And in terms of public comment for this specific piece, the requirement is to post that reopening plan on our website and gather public comment. And then there will also be a confirmation that we have that plan as part of the ESSER 3 the ARP, I should say ARP ESSER 3 application. And then there's a third plan, the ARP ESSER LEA plan, that again is a U.S. Department of Education mandate. The format we haven't seen yet, but it is a plan for the ESSER funds. It's due in late August. And the consultation piece there is meaningful consultation with identified groups during plan development, and also posting on website and gathering public comment. In that particular plan, there is a 20% in the ESSER grant, there is a 20% set aside for measuring and addressing learning loss specifically. It's one of the the allowable uses and targeting underserved populations. And really the notion is the recovery plan and the reopening plan will sort of give guidance to this specific ESSER LEA plan. I've underlined meaningful consultation because we asked for some clarity around that and we're provided that clarity from the state. Here's the information that the state has given us. Meaningful consultation is with students, families, school and district administrators, including special education administrators, teachers, principals, school leaders, other educators, school staff, and their unions, and to the extent present or in or served by the LEA, tribes, civil rights organizations, stakeholder groups, such as those with interest in children with disabilities, English language learners, children experiencing homelessness, foster care, migratory students, incarcerated students, and other underserved students. So a bunch of different groups that need to be consulted with. And I'm providing a little bit more background. The meaningful consultation as a phrase comes from the federal programs legislation regarding equitable services to independent schools. And it's essentially consultation that provides genuine opportunity for all parties to express their views, to have their views seriously considered. The guidance from the state is, here are some questions you can be asking of stakeholder groups. Based on our needs assessment, have we communicated our needs clearly? Are our goals clear? Do you feel they address our needs? Is it clear how our actions will help us achieve our goals? Do they align? Is it clear which resources we will use to support the implementation of our plan? Do you have any concerns? Do you have any additional recommendations we should consider? So the notion is, as we work, sort of use the recovery plan to inform the ARP ESSER plan, we will be consulting with a variety of stakeholder groups. We need to do that over the course of this coming summer. And ask these questions and get that feedback so that the plan we create can really be what it needs to be. We have some sort of guideposts going forward, some things that need to happen. One thing we are going to need is more clarification from the Department of Education and from AOE about the criteria for allowable uses and the procedures, particularly around any building projects. One of the things we want to do, for instance, is to continue the HVAC upgrades, and Frank may actually even be later talking about it or at another meeting talking about that. And we haven't really got sufficient guidance from the state on that. There's still some hoops to jump through that we need to be clear about. We also need to be clear that the narrative structure for applying for the ESSER 3 grant is not available yet. But we will most assuredly have to follow the Code of Federal Regulations that I spoke about earlier. And then the notion, it was sort of how we're going to go about gathering ideas. And a lot of ideas have already been floated. We've had lots of conversations with the administration, the principals, about what are some things that we could envision, including in the ESSER 3 application. We've got we're developing a small working group that will include representation from principals, superintendent's office, curriculum, special education, that will begin to identify, the whole leadership group can identify a set of criteria for looking at different ideas for investments, and then sort of vetting through those and also getting ideas for investments and reflection on the plan from those stakeholder groups. So that's a process that's going to happen starting very shortly and running through until that ARP ESSER 3 plan is due the end of August. That stakeholder group information will also inform our recovery plan. So next steps: complete and submit the initial recovery plan for June 1. We're just about there. Continue to monitor our implementation. Complete the reopening plan the end of next month, post it on the website, gather public comment. Based on our recovery plan, engage in meaningful consultation with stakeholder groups for the ARP ESSER 3 LEA plan. Complete that and post it to the website, also post it to the website to gather public comment. And I think that's it. Yep. So questions?
I see one from Tim. Go ahead, Tim.
I haven't heard any mention of the leadership councils. They're an important stakeholder group, and I'm wondering if if perhaps it would be good to include the chairs of the leadership councils in the working group, or perhaps David or Paul can speak to each of the leadership councils. But I think it's really imperative that the leadership councils be involved in this.
I would have thought that the leadership councils would funnel that information through the principals.
I think that they would appreciate more direct communication.
Yeah, I think we can clarify that as a board, Tim, in terms of how we want to hear about it. Along similar lines, I noticed on the road ahead slide, the working group does not include any of the stakeholders. It sounds like you're going to complete the process of putting the grant together and then put it out to people and say, what do you think, rather than getting input earlier in the process. So I think, we'll be meeting in the summer to talk about these things and get updates. But,
yeah, I think
that's an important point, Tim, and I think that the leadership councils definitely need to be in the process.
Some of that is really by design, with who's asking, who is being asked to create the plan, but certainly the opportunities for feedback are there. Sort of have been there and are continue to be there.
Cassandra or Tim, were you done?
No, just one other point.
Go ahead.
Related to this, another point. Some schools are moving away from semester-based with 7 class periods to a quarter system where students take no more than 3 subjects at a time. The structure of this frees teachers to focus on half as many students at a time. It's very intense. Is there going to be an opportunity to discuss not just use of funding, but the very nature of our work, the nature of the structure of high schools? Would that be appropriate within this context?
Doesn't sound like anybody has thought of that one yet, Tim.
I'm just again sort of wanting to understand, and Tim, you and I had a sort of similar sorts of conversations, wanting to understand the connection to a response to the pandemic.
Yeah, and this gets directly at student engagement. More intensive classes where teachers can focus on 80 students rather than 160 students allows for better student engagement.
Sure, I know that the high school has essentially every faculty member engaged in discussions about recovery. I would not be surprised at all if that conversation had happened, but certainly we can check in with Steve about that.
Okay, I just think this is the time for big ideas to rethink how we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and I think the school-based work like that is happening at the school level. So in my mind, that's a very that's a high school specific.
Cassandra?
Hey, so I just wanted to, I was just thinking about the stakeholder, consulting with stakeholders. And I know United Way is working on a reimagining Windham County project. Obviously that's Windham County focused, but a big piece on that was education and supporting our youth post-COVID. And I know they'll be having some funding around that. And I'm just thinking about, the housing authorities that are seeing the families firsthand and what's happening in those homes. And I just was thinking maybe there's a way to, help. There's also the Accountable Communities for Health, Sue Graff co-leads. Just, love to help kind of get that information out to those groups to gather information from them, and also to kind of have that support. I think one of the things I know I've as part of the Building a Positive Community and having a MOU with the school district, it's been just wonderful to be able to support you all in the youth and the families in our ways. but there's so much of that happening. And so I look forward to working with you all on getting that information out. And I think especially like with the housing authorities or SEVCA and, you know, people who are actually hearing the stories, what they may see being needed. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle.
Hi, guys. Well, I have a question, but actually just to speak, Tim, on what you were just saying about the schedule. I don't know if you know that the high school currently actually does follow a schedule of only 4 classes. It's a little bit more like a college schedule where they do longer, shorter, less classes, longer periods, half year, and then it switches over. So they might do a whole year of language in the first half of the year, or math just on one half of the year. I was skeptical when I sent my 9th grader, but it's actually been pretty remarkable and pretty cool the way that they can absorb so much information. And it's kind of a more mature approach to learning. It does remind me more of a college schedule, but just FYI. So I had a question about, I mean, it sounds like you guys, I mean, thank you, first of all, for explaining all of this and laying it all out for us. Is there any guidance, or will there be any guidance or guidelines that need to be followed as far as, I guess, differentiating support per site based? Like this, like a lot of this, some of the stuff is very much district wide, and then there'll be need based, you know, at each school. And I'm wondering if there's any restrictions or guidance that you expect to see, or if it will be at, you know, the discernment of the school district.
I'm not. Let me try this and see if this is an answer to the question. There are 2 recovery plan groups working. One is a secondary group, one is an elementary group, and so all of the principals are working together to identify what are the needs and what are the, in fact, a whole inquiry science, improvement science process of identifying problems of practice, looking at root causes, identifying theories of action, and then coming up with action steps. And those action steps are, I would say, rooted in individual school needs, but often are combining because there are similar school needs across multiple schools. So often a strategy that we might come up with would be a kind of an umbrella strategy of identifying, say, instructional coaches. Those instructional coaches would be at an individual school based on need, but the work getting there would have been collective work from all of the principals. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think so. I guess I'm also thinking of just very literal, like if maybe 3 of our schools, if we find out we can put money into HVAC stuff and only 3 of those schools need it, like, will we, you know, is there any, are we just going to look at our district as a whole, or is there sort of, you know, will we be able to think about ways to invest in each of our schools to some capacity to maybe make improvement, even if it's one school is already maybe has a leg up, and just kind of looking for that balance. Although obviously some schools are going to have greater needs. I'm not thinking divide the money equally, I mean, a lot of it sounds district based. And then I'm just thinking there's like individual project things, developing, you know, the outdoor learning, the way that went. Some schools have, Bethany had mentioned, some schools have more natural resources than others. And so just sort of thinking about that, if there's opportunities to, I guess, invest in site specific needs to enhance that school site for those kids. You know, if we were gonna, you know what I'm saying? Your answer was fine.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty
the answer is yes. I mean, we're creating district goals, and then I want to make sure the point was taken at the end, where now schools are also working to identify under those goals what they are needing. So there's the money piece, but then there's also the goals and what they're going to continue to add. And then the principals are working together also to develop an idea of what needs to be consistent across their schools to meet those needs.
Yeah, I would say the principals are champs at advocating for their school and understanding the needs of the whole. They're really good at that.
Doesn't surprise me. It makes total sense. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? I think the one thing I think the board may want to weigh in on, and I want to find out if the board does want to weigh in on, one of the things that we're responsible for is making sure the public is well informed. And although posting something on the website and asking for comments is a viable way of doing that, aside from the fact that our website is difficult to navigate, that can be done easily. But I would like to see, and I'd like to hear from other board members about this too, because we've agreed that we're only going to ask for information if we all, or a majority of us want it. I would like to see a plan for how public engagement is going to be enhanced, other than just posting something on the website. And I know you're going to do more than that, but I think we'd like to see a specific plan. So do other people on the board agree that that's something we would like to have, information we'd like to have?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I had written it down too, David. Great minds.
I thought that was why your hand was up, Michelle, because
I had it as a note, but not to think to ask them to provide something. But yeah, thank you.
So I think that's, I'm not going to make a formal motion, but I think that's pretty clear that we would like to see the plan for how you're going to really expand the network of getting that information out, so that people so you do get a full response, or as broad a response as possible. Data is not meaningful if you don't have a decent sample. I see Cassandra's hand is up. Go ahead.
Yeah, just back to kind of what I just was talking about. I think, not just getting it to the organizations, but we all have like newsletters and Facebook pages and
exactly
people, parents and community, like, I know they've been kind of getting bombarded by like the schools. And so kind of having it coming from a different, different source may also help in getting the word out. So I just want to throw that out there.
We want this really as expansive as possible. With technology, it's not difficult to do. Tim.
Well, the Climate Emergency Task Force met, and this is just a comment, but this is for COVID relief. At some point, the district is going to have to plan for the next crisis, climate crisis, another pandemic. Just a comment from that group.
Thank you. Any other comments about this? I thought we were, because we haven't had an update, I'm sort of in the dark, and I thought we were applying for the ESSER money at this point, and that the deadline was coming right up, and we'd be doing some brainstorming, but we'll talk about that and see. We'll see, how that unfolds when the August deadline starts to approach. But I would like to ask you to plan on, and I'll have it at the beginning of the meeting because it's the day before the recovery plan is due, but plan on coming back on June 22nd, our second meeting in June, and just giving us an update. Because this is something I think we're going to want to stay abreast of. It's fascinating.
David, I just want to reiterate the whole concept that we are looking at continued reflection and feedback across the year. So I absolutely welcome this dialogue, and I think it'll be very fruitful.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that we can continue a process of hearing from the school. I'd like us to start the year hearing about the hopes and plans for the year, and then end the year hearing how it went, and be getting updates on all these things, because we won't be in a crisis, so we can actually look at how can we really understand what's happening in the schools and support that work.
Yeah, and for
obviously these last 8 weeks have made it really obvious the quality of the work that's happening, even in a worldwide pandemic. So yeah, this is the ongoing communication is the goal of all of this. So thank
Absolutely.
you. Great.
Thank you.
Other thoughts or questions? Okay, we will, it's 9:03. We don't have time-consuming things left, but I think we might be able to consolidate things a little bit. Frank is going to give us an update on the on our balances. We're a month from finishing the year, and Frank, as usual, in his normal comprehensive manner, sent us all kinds of really interesting information and everything we could possibly imagine. And so I want to ask you, Frank, if you could focus on just the first page, talking about the likely surplus that we may have at the end of this year to carry forward, and also have we spent more reserve funds than we planned, or are we on track of, we've got that revenue coming in, we've made some expenditures, we've had some COVID money. How are we doing in those two funds? And the rest of it, I would love to hear about it, but we'll be here all night.
You're muted, Frank.
We go. Okay. Yeah. So you see the first page there, David, that you were just referring to. So here's our year to date. This is one of several pages, as David noted, that I sent out to the board. But this is a good overview of where we are as of actually today. $52 million budget. Year to date, we spent $42 million, and we have open purchase orders and contracts for our teachers and so on. So at this point, we have $3 million left of the $52 million that's still to be implemented over the course of the next 5-6 weeks, as we close the fiscal year June 30th. So specifically, as we look at what might a surplus look like, I reported earlier that I do think it's going to be a favorable fiscal year end. We know areas like, for example, on this page, the first item, of course, is where most of our money spent is on our people. 1.1 million still available. Now, there's several weeks to still pay folks, but we know that over the course of the year, issues like substitute pay, money of the stipends, last summer, all of those after school programs, many things were upended and did not occur. So we're going to see a fairly significant, or I would say unusually high amount of salary and benefits still available unspent, or it will create a surplus against the spending plan in the salary area. The other areas that we're going to see, and it would be obvious, I'm sure, to most folks, is that we didn't do a lot of our sports programs, our field trips, and so on. And that's why when you look down in that 500 section in the middle of this page, this thing here, this is tuition and this is contracted services. You see a fairly significant amount of money still unspent there. So a good deal of that is going to become surplus as well. So overall, it's too early to give you a kind of a specific number, but we typically have a variance on our budget between 1% and 2%, right? So that would be 2% of 50 million is it could be as much as $1 million. This year, I think it's going to be a little bit higher than that. And at our next meeting, I will have a recommendation, or it'd probably be the second meeting in June. I would have my usual recommendation to the board for a transfer to the Capital Reserve Fund, as we've done in the past. A lot of the surplus is also attributed to maintenance projects that we simply weren't able to schedule and complete because of the pandemic. And so that lends itself, of course, to transferring those surplus funds to the reserve fund. So that's a normal board function. Board has the opportunity and the authority, you see the 52 million to spend up to that. That's voter authorized. And as you know, you're not obligated to stay within the line items of a budget. And that's where my recommendation will come from. It will be looking at To what extent should we try to reserve general fund balance so that we can address any unexpected issues when we go to set the tax rate for fiscal year 23 budget? We do want some general fund reserve, but we also know we have a significant amount of capital requirements out in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So that's the point of a transfer to the capital fund. So that's I think a general overview. The rest of the schedules are just looking at financial information by, direct instruction and support services and so on. And then we also have a schedule by school site. The totals are all the same. It's just giving you information by, different ways of looking at how we operate the public school.
That's great.
David, you were asking about the balance sheet. Here's the general fund balance sheet, and always the most important number is fund balance. This was our total fund balance that we began the year, 4.5 million. And as I just said, I do expect we will be adding to that. So I will be reporting on that, as we go. We don't generally ask for all the reserves. David, here's the early ed budget. This is part of the special reserve fund. Mm-hmm. They're in good shape as well. And here's the capital fund you were asking about. We started the year with a $2 million reserve. At this point, we've spent $200,000 out of that reserve. So right now it's at 1.8 million. We've talked a good deal about the Academy project, and if we're not able to access the federal grants, then we would be substantially drawing down on this fund. But I do expect that we're gonna be successful. It is disappointing that just last Wednesday the state told us, "Hey, hold off on advertising for your bid." They have questions to the U.S. Department of Education, and they needed to get some rules clarified before we move ahead. One rule that is clear is that we would not be eligible for this federal funding if we do not get prior approval from the Agency of Ed. So we're waiting for that. The other topic there that's on the agenda tonight, and I sent you this document here, just kind of a snapshot of the COVID federal grant awards and where we're at. This CARES Relief Fund was the first round of grants, so I've reported on this earlier. This grant closed in December of 2020, so part of this fiscal year, but that was a few months ago. We've talked about the the use of those funds. Substantially went toward personnel, of course, to help us operate under the pandemic. But then also a significant amount of money was spent on technology, and that's you heard a lot about from the principal reports, the teachers over the last several meetings, how we've used technology and all of those supplies and resources to create those great programs, including outdoor education and so on. So I think, I probably don't need to elaborate on that because we've reported on it before. Similarly to the indoor air quality, primary spending on that was the Academy unit ventilator projects, along with Guilford. Those were the two 1950s era school unit ventilators in classrooms that, after a system-wide, all 10 buildings survey of HVAC system functions as it relates to the ASHRAE standards in terms of, air movement and so on. Those were the projects that were identified as urgent, and we did address those. But there were important improvements in the high school in Oak Grove, Dummerston, Green Street, and Putney, as well as Vernon. So That's occurred. And now this is the most recent grant that has just been submitted, and I believe we have preliminary approval, but as Paul reported earlier, we are waiting for AOE approval on the construction component. So this is $1 million ESSER 1 award. It goes through June of 2022. So this is in play now, and it is being implemented. It is primarily salary and benefits for, again, essentially creating many of the resources that you heard referred to tonight in terms of student support services, professional development. There's a continuation of supplies and materials for instruction in this $1,086,000. And year to date, we've spent $700,000 of it. In the SD, there's the breakout, as you can see. The Career Center has a different line of federal funding that's available, and Nancy Weiss has applied for that and successfully secured that grant. It's primarily equipment improvements. So there is an overview. And before I wrap it up, when I am just about to wrap it up here, I do want to just mention, as Paul and others have referred to, the ESSER money is all federal. And here's our purchasing manual that's on the SU website. Anyone can take a look. Within here, I just want folks to be aware that when a board in a system apply and request federal funds, there's a very stringent set of rules that have to be observed. Here they are. This is what Paul referred to, the Code of Federal Regulations around the recipient of federal awards. So if you're interested, feel free to go to the SU website, and you'll see this at the bottom under Employee Resources, and then you zip down through that list and you'll see the purchasing manual. But I just want folks to realize that it's one thing to have an idea around what would be a great investment for schools from a variety of points of view. But here are 70 pages of rules that must be followed in spending and accounting for and reporting back to the state agencies around the use of the money. And we're very fortunate to have Paul as a CFP program coordinator. That's the Consolidated Federal Program Coordinator. That's a required kind of position in supervisory unions in Vermont, who are versed in these rules, these 70 pages of rules. They basically get to, essentially, the federal government is sending us millions of dollars. They want to understand the goals, how we're going to measure our results. They want reports. This is all intended to be shared so that they can scale up success in the nation. So, here, right off the top, the performance measurements and so on. I just want folks to appreciate that Andy, Superintendent, Paul, myself, and the team at the central office have to comply with these 70 pages of rules, and these are not, negotiable. So this defines the way in which programs have to be addressed, reported, accounted for, implemented, strategies defined, and so on. So unfortunately, it's not the fun stuff, but it is the essentially the rules of the road. And if we don't follow them, 2 or 3 years later, you have to give the money back, and that's all part of a single audit. We've done very well with single audit. It occurs every year, but the federal government says if you're going to receive these funds, you will be subject to the annual federal audit, and if you break those rules, you will send that money back on your local tax rate. So I think it's always important to complete the circle on how things work.
Thank you. That's why we have competent administrators in the offices. Any questions for Frank? Okay, we will move along to committee reports and updates. And at the top of that is leadership councils. We received, Barb sent me today all the memberships, the list of memberships for all of the leadership councils. And I forwarded them to you just before the meeting. I don't think we want to move on approving them. There's no reason not to accept that you haven't had time to look at them, but we can do that in 2 weeks. And what I'd like to propose is that we set aside a major part of the meeting on June 8th, our next meeting, to talk about the range of ideas and thoughts and issues and questions that have emerged around the leadership councils, especially over this year, since they were really pretty much fully implemented this year. And just remind people, it was November of 19 when they were voted into our articles. So it's not even a full 2 years. And so a lot of questions have come up. The Communications Council has a lot of information about that and has been doing a lot of thinking and planning. And so I wanted us to basically take that meeting to go over to sort of generate those questions, answer the ones that we can, and then figure out which ones we want the leadership councils to kind of mull over and figure out for themselves. So I'm a little bit unclear about this because I'm not exactly sure how we should go about it. But I know that we have talked about having a summit of leadership councils. And I think before we do that, there are some questions the board needs to settle on. And we may need to alter the policy somewhat. But I think we should try to go ahead with that in the summer, or at least very early in the fall, and ask the leadership councils to elect a representative. I think we want to talk about whether we want that to be a community person or not, and just kind of go over the ground rules and how we want to approach this process. So I'd like us to spend most of the next meeting talking about that. It's new. Nobody's ever done it before. There's no guidelines. There's no book. There's no. We have a policy that lays out the expectations pretty clearly, and the actual article that was adopted by the community that put it into our articles has information that we need to really be clear about. So that's my proposal for how to proceed with the leadership councils and to get us set up and in good shape to start next year. So any thoughts? Again, we'll have a whole meeting to talk about it, but or if people want, it's late and people want to just send me ideas over the course of the next week or two, that would be great. Mary?
Hi, David. Thanks. I was under the impression that we had to send those names in because they needed to be approved for the next meeting. And I was hoping I could get those approved because I do have a leadership council meeting tomorrow and we thought it was going to be the new people. So I have
actually they need to be approved for next year. Your current members and most of the leadership council members right now have not been approved by the board. Very few leadership councils send us their list of members to be approved. So you're fine to continue operating.
So can I operate with the new people? Like we shifted now. So the new people will be there tomorrow. Is that all right?
Well, again, because this is brand new, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. If probably by Robert's rules, maybe not, but by what we need to be doing as this project or process develops. Yeah, I mean, we could just by acclamation approve all of them right now so everybody could go forward. That might might be the best way to go. I don't think it's something that necessarily has to be warned. It's not a change in public policy or anything.
And I do have a few people that are, remaining on, so maybe I'll have enough for tomorrow, whichever works.
I think frankly, let's hear from some more board members, because somebody might have a good way to solve that. Because there's no reason for the people that are want to participate to not start right in. It's not like we're going to turn people down.
Sure.
Michelle?
There we go. Yeah, this kind of wraps up a little bit. The Communication Council did meet recently, and this has been a topic that we've been trying to tackle since last summer, and gone off in a lot of different directions. I think I'm not sure where the right starting point is, David. I totally appreciate that this is something new that hasn't been done. I did reach out to Andy and had a conversation with him, and I was going to ask him anyway when this was on the agenda. I was going to send a message or mention it, tonight, because we had conversations about, who's really supporting Leadership Council development and whose role is it, and where do the principals fit in. So I know Andy had some thoughts that I thought would be beneficial to share about his ideas about how he wanted to progress. And that led me to really thinking more about, what the right role is from the Communication Council's perspective. How can we support development? And so we are really, just trying to identify, not to do work for the board, but, would it be appropriate to try to create some proposals? And we have some ideas about, how do we develop the board's relationship with the Leadership Council simultaneously, so that we have protocols in place, and what are some reasonable expectations? And it did feel like something that should be a board discussion, not, certainly I wanted to get things organized and send it out or have it for tonight. And it was too much to chew on for a little bit. But we had, we did have ideas, and we do have thoughts about, our relationship and what the intention is here, outside of just the policy, and even just how we make sure that the public understands what this is outside of a policy that seems very formal. I think it's something I do really like, and it kind of speaks to where Mary's at, is, and just being concerned about following the right rules. And it's something we've talked about in Dummerston. We sort of talked about what rules are not negotiable, like warning meetings, open meeting law, getting the minutes posted. And then, how much of the rest of what goes on in that space is between the Leadership Council and their relationship with their principal, and, their participation in their school and their school's needs, because that's really the foundation of what they're supposed to be, right? That connection to making sure that their school feels like they have a voice and is represented when their board members are representing many schools. So, I'm really glad that I think this is a big conversation. And I don't know if there's a way to sort of organize our thoughts on this, and to think about if it could be like a working session, because I do think that there are reasonable expectations that we should be looking at for ourselves, like how we communicate and do an executive report back to the Leadership Councils, where we deliver to them, these are the policies we're reviewing, if that's the kind of relationship we want with them. But I do think, it needs to all go hand in hand with the role of Andy and the principals and their guidance, because it's really is, his responsibility, I think, to be developing them and to helping that happen within the schools. And so I don't know, I hope that there's room for us to all collaborate. I can give Andy ideas too. We have good minds on the Communication Council. I appreciate Tim's awareness. And I know, I've heard Kelly speak and talk at the SU meetings to make sure that we're not missing that. But it does seem like we need to do some serious reorganization and get everyone on the same page. I hope a summit is planning on happening. I hope that could be it. That is how everyone can get on the same page. I hope, I think, I'm not sure the end of a school year in summertime makes sense. I think probably at the start of a school year, people are they've rested and they're ready to take on a new school year and dive back in. I think it's been a long year, but but that gives us a summer at least. If that was something that was taken into consideration and ended up happening, it would give us a summer to get really organized to make these groups start off strong. And yes, Mary, if you're hearing me, I would say any parent involvement that you can get is just a-okay. That's what we're doing in Dummerston. We have some people who I didn't even realize were on the leadership council. People want to be involved. That's what it's all about. That's my perspective from, the parent and all that. And these formalities, I don't think are that significant other than, it's, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we'll have stipends and it is significant, but we're not there yet. So I'm glad you have people that want to participate and you're already looking at the next school year. I think that's awesome.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you. That's pretty good indication that the Leadership Council has been thinking about this a lot, and I think sending recommendations would be perfectly appropriate. All the things you mentioned are exactly what we need to take up. There are some things that the board needs to decide because they're related to the policy, but all the other questions, that's exactly the purpose I'm hoping that the next meeting serves. Tim.
Just for now, just for the new parents on the Oak Grove Leadership Council, I move that we just approve them.
Okay, could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Liz. Moved and seconded that we approve the
what are the names, Mary?
The new members as they exist in your email boxes today. Barb compiled them and did a beautiful job, and it's very comprehensible. Any conversation? Andy?
Just for clarification, David, that's for the entire list?
Yeah.
For all the schools, okay.
Okay, great. Any other questions or conversations? Thank you, Tim. That's really the way to deal with it, is just vote on it. And if it turns out to be a bad idea, Wendy needs to know what we're voting on.
No, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
I just want to make sure that I have this right, because with Andy's comment, I'm a little confused. Is the motion to approve, new members of the Oak Grove Leadership Council or all?
All the leadership councils as communicated by Barb Nowakowski to the board this afternoon.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Tim. All those in favor, please unmute and indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay. Do we have any Leadership Council reports or committee reports that people would like to share?
Yeah, I have a quick one about the Climate Crisis Task Force met for the first time since I think September or so yesterday, and we just kind of talked about what the future of the task force will be now that our policy proposal was, went through the process and is now a policy in a different form. And we plan on meeting every month again from here on out. And then I just have another note that the Social Justice Committee will be meeting tomorrow at 4.
Thank you, Thomas. Any others? Sean?
Yeah, the Guilford Leadership Council met on May 14th. And it started out with a report on the PBIS that takes place at Guilford, which is the Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports. And Guilford was awarded a merit school for that. And they've been doing it for about 5 years. And so it was a pretty comprehensive report and very interesting. There's been some really good outcomes because they do have the PBIS, and a lot of the staff are deeply involved with it. So it was sort of a recap of what has been presented by a lot of the other schools in how to create a climate within a school that is very positive, and everybody's pulling on the same oar. So that was really good. Then there was quite a bit of discussion about the end of the year the SBAC tests. And so it was a comprehensive meeting. And then there's also quite a bit of discussion about the end of year activities, field days, celebrations for the 6th grade. And that's about it. So thank you.
Thank you. Liz.
Yeah, EES Policy Council met last Thursday. I think the biggest thing was, let's see, they contracted for the work at Bird Street to upgrade the ventilation, and it's going to be both floors instead of just the ground floor. It's going to be both floors. And then there's also a considerable amount of money left, I believe, from ESSER and the CARES Act that will either be spent this year, or Deb was going to find out if some of it could be moved to the next fiscal year. But it was a sizable chunk of money, I think like $300,000. So that's going to be great for them. That's all I remember. Deb, you can fill anything I missed. Thanks.
Thank you. We also, Mariah Carney also sent us in your email boxes a report from our private partners too, which is always fascinating. Any other committee or leadership council information? Seeing none, we have unfinished business, 2 policies, D1, personnel recruitment, selection, appointment, and record checks, which were presented last meeting, and the other one, E14, environmental awareness and responsibility. These are for adoption tonight. Any questions or concerns about the policies before we vote? Hearing none, could I have a motion, please, to adopt policy D1 and E14?
So moved.
Thank you, Sean. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Michelle. Moved and seconded to adopt policy D1 and E14. All those in favor, please indicate by unmuting and saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the policies are adopted. We have 2 new positions in the high school. The descriptions came on Thursday with the agendas. I hope everyone's had plenty of time to look at them. Steve, I think, was looking forward to, we were both looking forward to a long description of these, but he may want to trim it down. But Steve, why don't you go ahead and again, this is important, so feel free to, I know you had quite a bit to say, and feel free to say it.
I always have a lot to say, David. Thank you. So we're, as we look at next year and we kind of consider where we are as a school, you may recall that we began last August by requesting a Dean of Students position that was not filled. We did a little bit of reflection after that, and we really thought about, what is the role of that person in the school, and we really have decided that we want that role to be more of a support position, because as you heard earlier from the academy presentation, a lot of times, repeating the same behavior kind of is a cycle. So we're really looking at the engagement coordinator as a person to kind of help us move our interventions from a reactive stance to a proactive stance. Traditionally when we've intervened, it's been after the fact when the student's done something wrong, and it's worked for a long time in a lot of schools and law enforcement. Somebody does something wrong, and so then you actually have some kind of consequence. What we're really thinking about in this position is kind of doing some upstream work, where we really want to work with the student and with the family well before we get to an issue that becomes serious. That's hard in high school because our students have been in school since kindergarten through 8th grade, but we're really looking at the engagement person to really be more than just a student engagement, but we want them to really also engage with families. The reason we're calling it a student engagement is because not every student has an active family. So we are keeping the student at the center of the work that we do. So we're really looking at this person to kind of work one-on-one with a group of students. Sean Murphy will probably remember we had a similar position at the high school. Bill Jan did it after he retired part-time. It was pretty successful, but we really feel like we need to kind of up the game on this. In terms of the current COVID crisis and reopening, this position is kind of an integral part of our opening plan, that this person would be available to work with students and families who have been unavailable since March 2020. We know that next August, we're going to have students come into the door that haven't been here since March 2020, and they are not going to be necessarily equipped to kind of return to high school right away. They're going to need some help. A lot of times what happens in a high school, in any school setting, if somebody's in a class and they don't feel engaged or they don't feel they're part of that classroom community, they leave and they go into the hallways and they, create problems, for a whole variety of reasons. The intention of this position is to really work with those students, but also to reach out to the parents. A lot of times we have parents who may or may not send their children to school because they're really worried about keeping their job. And so, to be honest, their child comes to school late because what they do is they get the child, the older sibling gets the younger siblings ready for school, gets them on the bus or gets them to school, and then they come to school and they're late here. So one of the things that we see when we intervene in this way is when we meet with the family, the conversation with the parent is not, why isn't your child coming to school? It turns into, how can we help you access childcare in the morning? And what do we need to do? What community agencies do we need to reach out to kind of help you? We have a lot of great agencies in this town. The challenge is not all of our families are equipped or able to navigate them and to enter into them. And so we're hoping that this person can kind of help in that position. Partnering with this person will be a social worker position. And those two people will really kind of work in tandem. One of the other areas that we think about is the suspension of the SRO program for next year. And we know that one of the roles that the SRO played is they were a person who was available, not in an office meeting with people, not in the classroom teaching. They were a person that was available and, pretty, unscheduled. And so they were able to intervene on an as needed basis. So we'd ask the engagement coordinator and the social worker to kind of work in tandem to figure out, okay, who's going to be, for lack of a better word, the person on call, who's going to be the person that, is going to be available. We'd ask them to be a presence in the public areas of the school. We certainly, action happens in the cafeteria. It happens after school. We'd want them to kind of be in high traffic areas. We'd want them to have an understanding of ACEs, so they can really look at adverse childhood experiences and be able to work with families in those. So we'd look for somebody who's had some form of trauma instruction and some form of trauma training. We'd want them to be able to work with marginalized groups, of all kinds. One of our big needs, in addition to working with students of color, is also working with students that are in the LGBT community, that we have a way that somebody can do outreach with students there as well. We're looking at this position to work a teacher contract. They'll report to me. They'll work the teacher contract, plus they'll have 5 days at the beginning of the year, 5 days at the end. We'd probably use some of those days this summer to kind of help them do some outreach, kind of gather what we call street data from families and kind of figure out, how do we jump into this process? We're pretty excited. We think this is a great step, and really we're looking for the engagement coordinator and the social worker to kind of be another source for students to build positive relationships with adults. So they can, they come into school, they see a friendly face, they have somebody they can check in with, they can go to class, they can see them in the hallway between classes, kind of get a recharge and continue on their day. And, our hope is that as the year progresses, this person will move from these I don't want to call them high profile, but these students that have disengaged with education during the pandemic to more of a systemic system where they say, okay, what systemically do we need to work on to really ensure that we're engaging all of our students? So, there's a longer term piece of it. In terms of evaluating the program, David and I actually talked about this. There's a difference between evaluating the employee and evaluating the program. So programmatically, it's really kind of tough because they're going to be looking at, course failure data, discipline data. They'll be looking at data for students leaving school, data for students leaving school and going, say, to Vermont Adult Learning. And so we'll really be looking at all of that data, but with the full understanding that this person is not the only impact on a student's likelihood to drop out, right? I mean, there's other data that, that weigh into that. So that's kind of what we would look at in terms of evaluating the program. And, we'd work with that person to, at least for years 1 and 2, to kind of help us craft the evaluation criteria for the program. I think I've talked a lot. I'm going to stop and see if there's questions about that.
It's astonishing that you can be that coherent at 9:45 on a whatever today night is, Tuesday night.
Thank you. Thanks.
I would like to make a motion that the WSESD board approve 2 positions for BOHS, the Flexible Pathways Coordinator and Student Engagement Coordinator.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ann. Moved and seconded to approve the 2 BOHS positions as presented. Michelle?
I just had a question for Steve, and I agree. I'm like, I'm trying to put sentences together. I'm tired tonight. As far as, these are basically replacing the SRO, and I'm just thinking about the people. There was never a meeting. I certainly heard from people in my community who didn't support seeing that position leave, and they wanted to have a conversation and talk about the pros and the cons and whatnot. And so, do you feel like when you outline these jobs and how they'll coordinate together, that basically checks all the boxes, or do you feel like there's any kind of loss of services in changing this, or is this still a conversation to have that it's too soon?
Wow, you want to ask that at 9:45? I think that the SRO position conversation needs to happen, and I'm hoping it can. I think that is a unique position that does things that even this position doesn't, because of their ability to access other agencies. So, we would have asked for this before. We had this before part-time when we had the SRO. Does it replace it? No. Does it help compensate for the loss of the SRO and the Dean of Students? It certainly does. But for me, what it really kind of formalizes is something that Kate and Chris and I have talked a lot about is, well, there's 2 things. One, how do we move from, as I said earlier, that reactive stance to that proactive stance? Because, it's really great if we can intervene before things get really serious. It's kind of like flossing, which nobody likes to do, but we do it. And then the other piece of it is it also helps kind of cement our philosophical shift towards, moving away from that punitive model of discipline, moving towards a discipline model that is really based on a student's ability to self-regulate. And so, we look at trauma-informed instruction, and what we're really trying to do is use this person and the social worker and our counselors and all of the adults in the building to kind of help students learn, who need it, learn that ability to self-regulate. That is so critical. As adults, we take it for granted, but it's really hard to do when your parents have yelled at you or something worse has happened to you in the morning, and then you walk in and somebody makes fun of you because your clothes aren't clean, right? So how do we help that student? Because we can't correct everything in their lives. We cannot do that, But what we can do is we can kind of help look at those adverse childhood experiences and say, okay, what do I need to do to help this person really have the tools they need to kind of weather this storm? And how do I, as the adult, serve as kind of the booster shot? And how do I kind of help them like get a little bit more solid every day? You know, we see this with kids. We have some students who come in, and I'm not going to name names, but they come in and they are really volatile. They're really out of control. But if we can connect them with a caring, calm, compassionate person, I watch them develop from 9th grade to senior year. And we have one senior this year that I am so psyched every time I see in the hallway, because he has become polite. He has become calm, thoughtful. It's great to see. So I'm hoping this person can help build more of those graduates for us.
Cool. Thank you for that answer. I would have felt like I wasn't doing my job if I didn't ask on behalf of people reaching out to me. But I think that makes sense. And it's exactly how I want to see our schools approaching our students. So good job.
Liz?
Yeah, Steve, do you have, I really like this approach, but I'm thinking about kids who are so disengaged that coming back to school in the fall as a full-time student would be too big a hurdle. Are there plans for kids to like kind of ease into the school year?
Well, that's it. So that really, if we look at the flexible pathways position, that's kind of one of the roles of that position, you know, because we are going to have students who will have a lot of trouble accessing 4 blocks a day. And so what if we can have that student working in the high school, you know, let's say it's on their English and their social studies, and then we can get them an internship with Steve Barrett, and we can somehow identify, he works for the town of Brattleboro highway department. And what if we can figure out a way that this flexible pathways coordinator can work with the department head, identify what science proficiencies are being met and documented by that internship, and how can we translate that into progression towards graduation? I think that's one piece of it. I think the other piece, Liz, is we are going to have to accept that some of our students may not be able to do a full load of school. Like they might not be able to. So we may have students who simply don't have what we call the academic stamina right away. And so, you know, we're gonna have to build up to that. And, you know, I was listening to Tim earlier talking about our schedule. One of the things we've added as a result of COVID is some of our courses are now going to be quarter length 10-week courses. So health, PE. So those are courses that 10 weeks in, let's say we have a student who's really struggling. They can't handle that full load. So they come in, we have them in 3 classes. At 10 weeks, maybe that's when they pick up the diversity class and they take that for 10 weeks. So maybe we ease them in. But Liz, it's really gonna be a one-on-one intensive process, and our counselors are gonna work really hard next year, because they're gonna have to figure out, because every single one of these kids is gonna be different with a slightly different presenting problem. But I think the flexible pathways coordinator will fill part of that role.
Great, because I also thought about, you know, for kids who are completely disengaged and don't really want to engage at all, the flexible pathways, even just pulling them in like an independent study and something crazy that wouldn't be at the high school, that might not necessarily fit into graduation requirements, but just as a hook to get them engaged in some kind of learning. Right. And to think of themselves as somebody who can learn, that has crossed my mind in reference to these positions. And I don't know if it's crossed yours, but anyway, that they can have success, whether, you know, maybe it's like an independent study on gaming, if that's what they're into, just to, you know, as a hook. And also to think, I never want a kid to like drop out of the high school and think of themselves as somebody who can't learn. And I think that probably happens through nobody's fault, but I think it happens. And I think it's kind of critical that every kid who leaves the high school, no matter whether they graduate, whether they drop out, to have a picture of themselves as somebody who can learn. And maybe 5 years down the road, they'll go back and get their GED. And maybe then after that, you know, okay, I can do that and move on from there. And they might not go to college till they're 45. But if we've given them that piece to take with them, I think that's really critical. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks, Liz. Yeah, we do have, you know, another thing we do is we have students who do drop out of BUHS, they unenroll, and then they go to Vermont Adult Learning and they do the high school completion program, which in many ways mirrors exactly what we want to do here. And so if we can do that on site without a student leaving high school, it makes us all happy because, we don't lose a student, most important, but we also, keep our ADM. We also, we keep our enrollment higher, which is better. We had a student who left us and they needed a PE credit to graduate, and they were also into stagecraft. And so what they did at Adult Learning, and this is brilliant, they got them sword fighting lessons, and they learned how to fence, and that was their PE credit. And that's the kind of thing I'm hoping we can do. That's the kind of creativity I hope we can kind of get to tap into.
Great, thank you, Steve.
I just want to add one thing, because in talking about these job descriptions, Steve explained that the high school, the finishing high school program that the state sponsors, if a student gets into an apprenticeship, the state pays for the apprenticeship, but the state won't pay if we want to put a student into an apprenticeship. So I think the board needs to be thinking, and Steve as well, about some budgetary allowances so that we can do those kinds of things as well. So, any other thoughts or questions before we vote on the job descriptions? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the job descriptions as presented, please unmute and indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, they are passed. We have one more item, new business policy review. This is the first reading. We will approve it. Next meeting, it's the C6 board superintendent relationship. The change in here is that I encourage people to read through it, and if you have any questions, to please bring them. It deals with a conversation we've been having all along about asking for information. I'm trying to find that. Yeah, this part. Only decisions of the board acting as a body are binding on the superintendent. The board will employ motions to articulate decisions. That's why I asked for the decision tonight earlier about getting a plan for outreach for advertising for comments on the recovery plan, because this is if we want something actually to happen, this says we have to vote on it. We have to decide on it, and it's perfectly reasonable and well, I think it's perfectly reasonable, but that's the change in here. So think about that. If there's any comments about it tonight, or anybody wants to read through it, I can leave it up, but we'll be voting on it next week. So this is the first reading. Any other business to come before the board? Andy.
Yeah, I've got an executive session, student matters that we cannot discuss publicly.
Okay. Could I have a motion, please, to go into executive session to discuss a student matter where premature public knowledge would put the district or the people at disadvantage?
So moved.
Second?
Seconded.
Was that Tim?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. Moved by Sean, seconded by Tim. We will enter executive session at 9:58 because everybody has to leave. We'll invite the superintendent in to join us. Wendy?
Oh, whoops. Sorry, Mr. Chair. I didn't catch the vote on that.
On moving to executive session?
Yeah, what was the vote on that?
We didn't vote.
We did we vote?
You did not.
Okay, well, we got the motion. That's a start.
You sure
all those-
did. Good job.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Thank you. So, Rich and Wendy, I'll move you to the guest room, the comfort zone. Let's see, where is that? We're being recorded again. Rich and Wendy, we're back.
Yep.
I have a motion, please, to accept the superintendent's recommendation.
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved by Michelle, seconded by Ann. Was it?
It was Emily.
Emily. Okay, seconded by Emily. Any further conversation? Hearing none. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Then the recommendation is approved.
Could I just hear again who moved and seconded?
It was moved, yeah, that's a good question. Moved
I
by
got it.
Michelle, seconded by Emily.
So I couldn't hear you. You moved by who and seconded by Emily?
By Michelle.
Okay,
Okay, great.
all set.
Having no further business.
Dave, we didn't actually vote.
Oh, all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Thank you. Any opposed? We have it.
Mr. Chair, there being no further business before this board, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Thank you, Liz. Moved and seconded that we adjourn at 10:28. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? We are adjourned. Good night, folks.
Night,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.